So you have like the gunships, which are the air-to-the-ground. You have the air-to-air fighters, which are pretty much all air-to-air. So that's what the Corsair is for. That's what the Scout is for the Kala Protoss.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Do we have audio?
I think we do.
Fantastic. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being patient. Turns out running a live event is pretty hard. We're having a lot of fun playing this game, so we really appreciate you joining with us. My name is Thomas Jack Tacklebonte. With me is Jeff in Control Robinson. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. I'm just getting my work cut out for me. Observing 2 vs. 2s is quite the chore, I would say.
Yep. Well,
a lot of action.
Yeah, there's stuff happening all over the place. So we had an early opening with a bunch of gunships, a lot of harassment all over the place, and we're sort of moving into this Tier 1, Tier 2 kind of a mid-game.
Are the Lancers pretty similar to Immortals in that they just pack quite the punch? Yeah,
they actually have a little bit of splash. They have a very small splash radius, and the thing about the Lancer is that if you hold it still, you put on hold position for 4 seconds, you can see they're going to do that now.
They kind of siege up?
They kind of siege up, they'll get 4 range, and they'll actually go into Hidden, which is an alternative version to Cloak.
Oh, interesting. And then what is their detection abilities? Do they lose that when they shoot, or how's that function, I guess?
They actually don't lose it when they shoot, and ooh, this is going to be painful. They don't lose it when they shoot, but they do lose it when they move. So it's very much a positional type of a thing. You hold your ground, and you remain cloaked.
Interesting.
For that amount of time.
I could see like an ambush mechanic of that too, but you don't usually see like tanky units being the ones that are able to go invisible like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the other thing about the hidden mechanic is that it's not a true cloak. So it's given a range. So the Lancer has hidden 4, and that means any enemy, not just detectors, if they get within 4 range of that unit, it will become revealed. So
which is its shooting as well.
Right. Yeah. So air units can be used a lot of times as sort of placeholder detectors. You can just sort of move them in, get them close, deal with the Lancers. But they are very difficult to dislodge once they get set up.
One of the things I kind of like about this game, we kind of saw that earlier on when we were figuring out the audio for you guys, is there's a lot of harass going on. We saw some really cool bomber units dropping some bombs up here. A lot of workers went down, but macro in Vanguard is very different, I guess.
Yeah, so the macro system mechanically is drastically reduced in complexity. Workers produce automatically, and basically that allows us to put in more skill shots into the game, more micro tactics. The main idea is to spend less time managing your base and more time managing your army, and that allows, as we've seen already, the professional players to spend a lot of time with multi-pronged harass and things like that.
We have a big fight here. We've got those Lancers like you were talking about. Right now working on the kiting back and forth, but here we go. Huge fight going. Dragoons behind the Lancers, but the charge lots seem to be able to jump on top of this, and it looks like it's going in favor of Innovation's team right here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Innovation and Classic crushing through. The siege tank's very powerful, in a good position on the high ground, and they're going to be able to take out that mineral-only expansion. We have a complete retreat from Hurricane and Myungshik.
I mean, it looks terrible, right? It looks like that's end-of-game damage, but is there a way to bounce back from that, or what do they do?
Well, fortunately, things produce very quickly in Vanguard, so whatever bank they have, they're going to drain it. They didn't take the Zelnaga up on top of that map, as we can see, which would have stalled for a little bit of time, but this is crushing damage, and that's it. GG, well played, Innovation and Class.
Things I talked to Theo about before the tournament, but I guess the game can get, just like any other RTS, very snowbally, so like if you take a big decisive fight like that right there, and you don't have the bank like you were talking about, while you can still make units very quickly, that can be tough. But also, like you talked about, taking those kind of stacked defense lines to buy you that time seems to be kind of the thing to do there, I guess. Yeah,
in general, a lot of our active abilities tend to be positional based. Like the Lancer, the siege tank is of course in the game. There's a Diamondback, which is a sieging variant as well. All those things are sort of involved in the game. So controlling territory and paying attention to the terrain of the map becomes a much more critical factor towards victory.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to get into that next game, guys. We didn't see the score of the first one, so I guess if you could find that out, that'd be kind of cool. Because it is best of 5.
It is a best of 5.
First of 3.
So we will at least go on to one more game, and we'll get that in for you pretty soon here. And fortunately, we won't have to observe the next game.
Yeah.
Our observer is in. So
yeah, that's just a little taste of Home Straight Cup for you guys coming up. It's very finicky. But I did, and I think one of the kind of cool things to take away from this too is the whole beginning stage of that was all taking place in the air with those gunships, and then eventually the anti-air as kind of a response to that. But talk to me a little bit about, because I think we're very used to in StarCraft when you harass workers, that can be an endgame tactic. Like if you lose enough, you're just dead. In this game, it feels more like you're kind of being pushed back or slowed down, as opposed to you almost never die to harass, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the pain points of RTS for a lot of players, especially newer players, is that moment where you look away and your mineral line gets erased, and then you're out of the game effectively. Yeah. And especially as a new player, you don't know if you're out of the game yet. So you spend a lot of time in the game just wondering if it's even worth playing, which is a really jarring, negative emotional experience. So we try to soften the harass a little. So harassment becomes this thing where it'll help you get an advantage in a lot of situations, but it's not going to be, almost never, this game-crushing thing. I think one of the exceptions to that is if you can snipe someone's main nexus, main town hall structure. That is a particularly powerful way to do it. But
it takes a lot though. They got a lot of health.
We do have increased health on all of the town hall structures because of that. A lot of the playtesting, we saw people, when we had the regular HPs, we saw people just run in with 8 cracklings and toss a spell on them, give them some extra attack speed and end games, and we found out pretty quickly that needed to be switched up. So we threw another 1,000 or so hit points, and all was well.
Hey, you talk about throwing a spell on it. I guess there's a commander mechanic kind of to this game as well. So you're gonna have different play styles.
Yeah.
I know that for right now it's being signified by like things are enlarged on the screen and then they have that power.
Yep. And as we are jumping into the game here, we'll see everything sort of starting off. But yeah, so you can actually see them in the bottom right corner. You can see those 3 spells. You have the plus signs, and that's going to be a healing structure that you can throw down. In the top right, you can see that 3rd resource is a little bit smaller than the rest of it because it's a new resource. It's Xel'Naga energy, and it slowly increases over the course of time. It just every 1 second or so you get another one. And there are objectives out on the map that can help you secure additional Xel'Naga energy.
Very cool.
But you use that Xel'Naga energy to cast spells that will give you attack speed in your battles. We did see the immortality spell that Phoenix has, the Kali commander. So that's
nice.
The Golden Armada. We're looking at a Nerazim Protoss right now. You can see it's sort of like darker shades, and all that is sort of communicated in the visuals. There are 2 different kinds of Zergs, a little bit weird. 2 different kinds of Zergs, 2 different kinds of Protoss, 2 different kinds of Terran. Yeah,
I mean they'll be much more unique, I'm sure, further down the road when you can kind of put your own visuals on there. We see a very, true to RTS, I suppose, a fast expand stage here, both players doing that, but I did notice there's some harass going on. I guess all the races start with their own kind of scout/harasser.
Yeah, so the, and this is where the visuals get pretty interesting, but the harassment, the scout unit is really purely a scout unit. It's melee, even though it's an adept, it looks like it's not.
Yeah.
It's melee, and it has very little damage. A one-on-one with a worker generally ends in favor of the worker. And that's part of the increased defender's advantage on top of that. Workers are stronger, they have more hit points, they have more damage, so that way if you need to pull workers, they're actually a relatively powerful force to help you defend against all-ins.
So like a scout first, maybe some harass if you're really not paying attention, I guess?
Yep, just kind of taxing the attention of your opponent, the multitasking. If you're a little bit, when I play tested against the professional players, they always took workers off of me as it happens.
And there's already some kind of cool metagame stuff going on right now. I was talking with Theo, one of the play testers and designers of the balance of this game, alongside you, who talked about how like your main base has the gold minerals, which we're all used to with StarCraft, and that means that it's just a little bit better at sticking around and bringing you in resources for longer. It's about 16 minutes to mine those out.
Yep.
And then he talked about too. It was I lost my train of thought. It was the worker transfer, which I thought was really, really cool. Some of these pro players grabbed onto the fact that because harvesters are automatically generated, if you transfer over a large number to, or like half to another one, both those town hall structures will then begin to produce more harvesters to shore up the ones lost. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and actually they've gone even beyond that now, and they've tweaked it so that they send 1 at a time, so that the main is always at 11 out of 12, so it's constantly producing. And then when the natural finishes, it's ready to go with the full 8 worker saturation.
Blowing my mind. Okay, so we're going to have these bombers come out here again. They take 75 energy, as Jack Attack was pointing out earlier. I think our audio might have been off at that point, but look at this. initially, oh no, he's not going to go with the bomb actually. He's just going to go with
Doesn't have the energy yet.
Doesn't have it just yet. It's coming up on it though, and this is nice. And I do kind of like it's interesting too. One of the general mantras I hear you guys kind of keep talking about. There's the bomb. It actually whiffs. Good dodge there by our orange Protoss, but. Higher health, less damage equals a little bit. I feel like it's interesting because that rewards both lower and higher level players. Lower in the sense that you don't just go, oh no, I wasn't prepared for that and I just die. But higher level in that because they have higher health, they can stick around and do more. So if you're controlling them better, I think there's more opportunity for damage, I guess.
Yeah, and that was one of the criticisms. As we're seeing the Diamondbacks, we see those Liberator circles on the ground. They work exactly as Liberators. The Diamondback is basically a ground Liberator. It's the easiest way to think of it.
This looks terrible.
Yeah, this is really bad. They're not only right on top of the enemy, but it looks like they're placing down fortifications on their enemy's fortification points, which is going to make this even more difficult to approach.
Innovation and Classic, two names that we all know as StarCraft fans, that they seem to be pretty good at this game, I guess.
And the incredible thing is they've probably practiced the least. They signed. They just. It's. I think me and Theo were one of the first people who played the first and second game with Classic, and he was just picking up things immediately, coming up with strategies that took all the other professionals like a week's worth of trying to figure out, oh, Xel'Naga's pretty important. Classic jumps into his first game and he's like, oh yeah, I should take this tower because it's going to secure me position. I'm going to be able to move this. It's like
very cool.
It is incredible how quickly the professional players are picking up this game.
Okay, well we're going to have Orange kind of pushing out here, trying to get a little bit of revenge. Another classic RTS strategy. If you're taking damage at home, one of the best ways you can kind of answer for that is get out there and do some damage to your opponent. But Innovation just swinging in here and again just slowing this down. I love this mechanic in that you look at this and you go, well, he's just dead. No, the Town Hall structure will immediately begin to rebuild, but slowing him down after having lost an expansion, we can all kind of understand you're suddenly having that snowball effect work against you in the economy, I guess.
And it's important to note too that workers do cost money. Right? Okay, that's one of the things that's pretty common misconception.
But it does take money out of your pool.
Right. Yep. It just doesn't take your attention. It does take your money. Okay, and we got the race doing a little bit of harass, and this is going almost completely unanswered. It looks like he's building
should be a
herald. It's not a scout. He's building a herald out of that right now. That is
unfortunate.
He is totally locked down, and that's a big part of your economy. Keep in mind the main base is mines twice as quickly as all of the expansions. So it's a one Dragoon pops out. That is a sad, sorry defense on the side of Myungshik.
Yeah, it seems to be a losing factor here. You can kind of, and one of the things that they're really aware of it in Vanguard is there's so much going on in the game that you almost keep half your vision on the mini-map to see what's going on. Our poor observer here doing a much better job than me, but there's just so much going on. There's one of those towers too that you talked about, the Xel'Naga tower. You can spend energy to upgrade that and make it a defensive structure, I guess.
Right. Yeah, so it's those circles on the ground, the fortification points, you place down your own structures there. There's some neutral Xel'Naga turrets on the map every game as it starts, and you can gather energy through those. And once you destroy those, you can build. But once those are done, basically players will be trading back and forth.
Cool.
Who owns that space.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, if you guys see on the minimap, every once in a while, like a white skull will pop up. That's that 125 Xel'Naga energy structure that pops up. If you kill that, you get that energy. That's a huge boost, like you said. You get about one every other second or so, or whatever it is. But 125 all of a sudden, several. It's just a lot of utility there.
Yeah, it's at least 2 spells. Spells tend to be somewhere between 50 and 75 energy on the commander, and those are your combat spells. So Diamondback's going to come in.
Ooh, a battle cruiser coming out. I think that might be my first capital ship I've seen in Vanguard in a while. I know that they have kind of a different role. Like they're, how would you describe a capital ship like a battle cruiser?
Yeah, so with the capital ship rework, basically things are more microable. Okay. They're less a movie. It's not just okay, I've made it to tier 3. Sure. I can just make a bunch of carriers and attack and win.
Okay.
I've done that before. It doesn't work. It doesn't seem like it.
They pack more of a punch. They're very expensive. Same kind of concept there, I guess.
Yeah, they're powerful. They're expensive, but they're a little bit more fragile. So you have to pay attention to them. You have to support them with your army, and make sure that you keep them alive. It's a very attention-focused thing.
But I really like Broodlords. Actually, they had a really cool mechanic where they have broodlings, but they kind of generate over time. So if they're left to their own device for a while, not shooting, they'll shoot in and just offload a huge number of broodlings. I think it's a really a really cool concept of that front loading their damage, and then over time they're less of a good siege unit because then they have fewer broodlings to launch. Anyways, we'll see that when we get to some of the Zerg races here too.
Yep, and this is absolutely, we can see the end of the game coming pretty quickly here. They're going to have to defend this and do a lot of damage across the map. It's 5 base, almost 6 base to 3 right now, and it looks like they're probably going to defend, maybe just barely, but I mean, economically, we're in a lot of trouble here for Myungshik.
Yeah, the air is coming back to haunt them. We see that not a lot of anti-air options for them. They're doing a good job being out there harassing, trying to slow it down, but when they're losing back at home like this, it seems to be a little bit futile. We see a little bit of blink there off those stoppers as well, kind of a similar mechanic. And now the Liberator shows up. What's this do here?
So the Liberator is it's the gunship for Warfield. So Warfield is and it basically shoots down. It's like a Colossus beam, but it shoots vertically, and that basically makes it so it's something that you can split against, and something that if you pay attention to it, you get more damage out of it, as opposed to like the horizontal.
That's that skill shot you're talking about, where if you control it more meticulously, you'll get more damage out of it. But that's going to be it. Tapping out. There is Innovation Classic winning again, and I have to imagine. I don't think we got confirmation in that first game, but it feels like a 3-0.
They seem to be
just
the
air
rolling through. Yeah, I can feel it. It has a certain smell to it in the air.
And their opponents, by the way, Hurricane and Myungshik. I mean, Hurricane. I actually watched the GSO group last night, but after Scarlet got bopped by him, I didn't see if he advanced. But Innovation played his group with Hurricane and destroyed his group as per usual. So it's kind of funny. I think that's nighttime for them, but he like wins last night, wakes up today, and is like, "There's this other tournament for another game. Sure, I'll be a god in that one as well." It's still it's still an RTS. There's still the same semblance of ideas going there for Innovation.
Yeah, and I think that's it's really exciting to see. It's something that as we're developing the game, we're worried about it. We're like, okay, how are the pros going to take this? Are they going to be able to just pick it up? Is it intuitive enough? And a lot of what we're trying to do is to make a game that's intuitive, to make a game that if you're a grandmaster chess player and you walk into this game, your general knowledge of strategy and logical thinking is going to be able to carry over into that game. So there's less specific build knowledge that's necessary and more general tactics and control and sort of understanding the way a strategy game works.
Interesting. I think that's a cool tightrope to try and walk, and I can definitely say, like you're talking about, some of the players, like Classic, for instance, just picking up the game pretty intuitively. Innovation as well. That could be something worth kind of keeping an eye on. So do we have another match coming up? Or
we have an official 3-0.
Yeah,
that was a
3-0.
Classic Innovation 3-0, and we're going to try to go ahead and hop into another one of the matches that are going on.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we're just going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
I think we're good. Go.
Are we live?
You're live.
There you go, guys. Wake up in the morning, or if it's at nighttime, you know, check your tinfoil hats. But anyways, we're in the game. Sorry about that. It's putting on a live show. I think these guys are learning, and perhaps I could have told them some horror stories from the NASL days to prepare them. But here we are. We have the winners match. This is Innovation Classic taking on Sort of and Zanster. And Sort of and Zanster must have wrapped up their series pretty quick too, because we're an hour into this, almost even less than that, and these guys are already here. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was one of the things that I was really wondering about as things started. Like, would there be this great disparity of people who just picked it up quickly and others who didn't? Would it be a factor of practice? I thought it would be. Apparently, it's not, unless Innovation Classic have been secretly practicing this for months or something.
Well, I think anytime you play something that's like you're in a level playing field of some people know, some people don't.
Yeah.
That too can make it actually very volatile and quick. Like it's like, oh, I didn't know that thing did that thing, and not that. So I mean, any game can be like that. Actually, it's kind of a testament to this too, that even in that last game we saw, I was pretty sure Myungsik's team was just so far behind that it was like, all right, they're dead. That first attack just killed the town hall. But they were able to fight back. They were able to kind of do some harass and stuff like that. So I think that is kind of cool about Vanguard.
Yeah, and we're seeing some really early aggression openings over here, and we have a proxy over off to the side as well. So we'll get a spot of that in a bit. Yeah, well, actually, that's one of the other things about Vanguard is that your production rate is really fast. So having a proxy is basically like having a forward rally point.
Okay.
It's almost like everything has warp in that way.
Okay.
So it's a very valuable thing to do, but also all the production structures cost a lot more money, so the risk is bigger as well.
So if you lose it, while it does reinforce very quickly, it ends up being a pretty big risk in the sense of reinvestment structure.
Right, because all production structures also double as supply structures. So you're losing all of that value, including the money you paid to build it when you lose your proxy. So it is a big deal.
And we do get to see Zerg here too. Tell me about the Zerg faction, how they kind of function here.
Yeah, so we're seeing the Eternal Swarm Zergs. This is more of the classic Zerg that you'll be used to from Brood War, Lings, Hydras, Lurkers, things like that. We're seeing them start over. Again, more harass, a lot of Heralds. The players I've heard from Theo are really liking the Herald. They're using it quite a bit, so getting into this choke with the Diamondbacks also is going to be really, really powerful. But we'll see if they'll be able to push through and up the choke. They don't have a lot of stuff. These Marines can just protect the tanks for long enough. The problem is the Heralds will be able to drop the bombs on the tanks as soon as they siege up, so it's probably why we're not seeing a siege just yet.
Is there kind of like a flat, oh, there's that first bomb at this level of few of the workers there. Is this flat damage like a bomb is equally effective against like a group of Marines and the tank as it is against workers?
Yes.
Or it's just all health related, I guess?
Yep. Yeah, it's all spell damage doesn't factor armor in.
Okay.
But attacks will. And that's just tiled from my StarCraft 2 work.
Very cool. You see the team of Sort of and Zanster here, the Swedes, fighting back a little bit, but still enduring some slowness from these harassed units. One of them of which has the energy for a bomb, it looks like. It might, oh my god, there was going to camp for a second. Yeah, you saw it too. Okay, we all saw the same thing that could have happened there. It didn't end up transpiring, but he wanted it so bad.
Oh yeah, and that's my favorite thing about the Herald. It's all about attention. If you're paying attention, it does nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that segue.
One Marine dead.
Who cares?
Nobody.
But if you get all the workers clumped up like that, that was almost 2 town hall structures worth of a worker line. And now we see the raids coming out. These 2 are gunboats, as you were saying. They're not anti-air. They're just
well, the Wraiths are actually more anti-air. It's very similar. They're the air superiority fighter for Warfield.
But they have a second firing.
Yeah, it's pretty weak to ground. It's a pretty weak to ground attack. Ooh, that was a nice hit.
And the Delaware Tower will pop up here, and we can see Teal. This is the Swede team pushing back one of the tunnel structures. That was a fresh expansion, but still it hurts. If you can see the Zerg, as we talked about, only on 2 bases, whereas we can see Innovation is pushing 3. Classic is going for his 3rd as well. Actually, I think he's flat mining off that, so he does have 3 as well.
Yeah, the Swedish team there did try to expand a little bit too fast. They expanded onto 6 base while their opponents were on 5, and Classic Innovation were able to capitalize on that really quickly.
What's that effect now on the Zealot? That seems to be new. Is that a spell?
Yeah, that's a spell. So that's chrono acceleration, and that is the basic spell. Everyone has a basic spell. It then increases movement speed and attack speed.
Oh, okay.
And they have different animations for each, but that is the Protoss version. That's what it looks like.
How big of an investment is that? Because that fight looks like it's always going to go his way with or without the spell. Is that a little bit frivolous of him, or is that? How do you think about that decision? I guess.
Yeah, I think it was probably a bit of a waste of the energy.
Okay.
That's definitely something that comes into play. Conserving and utilizing your Xel'Naga energy.
Is there a cap, or can you go up to 5 million?
You can go up to 5 million. Actually, and there's no supply cap either. The game is generally
grindy.
It is sort of just governed by the mechanics and the economy of the game. We don't see games get to 10,000 supply just because there's so much interaction, so much fighting going on that the supplies usually don't climb particularly high. It's not long periods of inactivity.
How do you find, so like if my hypothetical 75-year-old dad plays against my grandmother, they sit down, this is their first time, and the supply could swell up that high, or does the game really just push you towards aggression? Is there turtle?
I mean, you can turtle, right? If both players, no rush 20 minutes, I think that is it. Ooh, we're going to see some heralds. Potentially while he's not paying attention. Nope.
That's the middle you want.
Ooh, nice abducts there on the Diamondback. I guess almost all of them, but there it is. Going to get a couple of hits off. Not exactly the ones that he wanted. But
it's like a condensed AoE, I guess. Whatever it hits in that small area.
It's pretty small. It takes you have to very intentionally aim it, and that's one of our goals to make a lot of these things particularly intentional. The spells that you cast and etc. But if two players, and we've seen this some of our newer play tests, are sort of new, they're getting used to the game, the mechanics and things like that. There will be turtling that happens. But like you mentioned earlier, the mains will mine out around 16 minutes.
So you get pushed you towards the middle of the map.
Yep. Okay. You pretty quickly get pushed towards the middle of the map.
Well, that's good. We do see the Heralds finally getting the attention they deserve. Hydras coming in. I've seen earlier too. There's actually specifically Sky Killer Hydralists or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Very cool. That you can kind of condense your focus, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, how did that pop up? We just saw Missile Turret just appear. Or no, it's a sensor tower.
Yeah, it's a sensor tower. So that's a spell. That's a Warfield spell, and that's going to increase the range of everything within it by 2.
Oh, cool.
So that's so you each have a regular spell, which is attack speed, movement speed, pretty simple, and then you have a commander-specific spell. So Raynor has an ambush bunker, and
which I love. That was very cool.
Yeah, and Warfield has the sensor tower, which is increasing the range of the units in the circle.
All right, Innovation and his teammate Classic here seem to be in full power mode. They're actually going to just go right over that ramp, which looks to be a very tough thing to get over, but they're not having a tough time with it. And there's some medics now mixed in with this bio, a lot of zealots. Some Templar in the background. Are they still kind of AoE spellcasters? I know they have an attack, but...
Yeah. The attack is more of an accessibility feature than anything else. But yeah, they're AoE spellcasters. Feedback actually does quite a bit of damage, even to non-enemy units. It'll just do a very small, focused area of effect that'll do damage, whereas the Storm is a little bit more broad, a little bit more slower damage that you can move out of faster.
Thinking about something that's dropped here. Talk to me a little bit about upgrades. If you look at the production tab, guys, which I know is going to be a bit confusing, but just give you some more information. We are seeing those upgrades. They're global now. It's not just air and ground. It's everything.
Right. So we're seeing Classic start to get his +3, and that'll be his +3 for everything. His Zealots, his High Templar, his Carriers. Seen a couple Great Storms come down over here, and ripping apart all of the Zerg, and that is the end of it all. Sort of GG's out, but leaves Zenster to hang out just a little bit longer.
Think about for a second, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the interesting things that we find in playtesting, because
the scene's frozen. That's not actually what I'm doing. Show it again. Show it.
All right.
Because I'll be talking.
Look at this magic.
A great picture.
Someone screen cap that.
Look at your face. You don't need to. It's frozen right there.
Oh man, yep.
Well, I'm actually.
I think I have a new headshot. I think.
As like the grizzled old esports vet, it's fun seeing you guys battle with technology like this. The tournament marches on, and that was another dominant performance. So let me do this, Jack Attack. Let's teleport to 5 years from now, and you're in a booth, and this game's being played for 25 million people. What was the mistake they made, the Swedes? Why did that go so poorly for them? You talked about expanding too fast, but what was Innovation Classic doing so well, other than that?
I think for the most part it was It was about their engagements. I think Classic and Innovation were just picking a lot better fights. They were more active out on the map, and they were basically out multitasking and out basically with a raw mechanics kind of approach, just out multitasking, out mechanicsing their opponents there. And expanding before your opponent and then getting attacked is always a bummer. It was a pretty big risk to take, taking the expansion that early, and unfortunately, they didn't even get anything out of it. So
expanding to the third expansion per guy, I guess what you're saying. 'Cause you said it feels like that first expansion is a gimme. I'm not seeing any threat at all. Is there a rush in the game?
Oh yeah, and interestingly enough, most of the professional players will all just sort of gentleman's agreement. Yes, we're going to take naturals now, and that's kind of how it goes.
But there is a way to challenge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Going Nexus first, Hatchery first, etc., is not completely safe.
Oh, interesting.
You can punish it, but you have to be pretty aggressive. What we found in our testing is that with the scouting unit, the initial scouting unit, if you go out and you can scout that they've taken their bases, you're safe to take yours. But and the other thing too that's a little bit weird and tough to get used to is that it's a 2 versus 2 game. So it's more about, are they going 3 base against our 4 base, or are they going 2 base against our 4 base? Because if it's 2 base versus 4 and they do a 2 base attack, they're going to destroy, at least deny the expansions, if not push all the way in. So it becomes difficult in that way to just blindly take an expansion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, what I feel like I'm hearing is if you're doing a designed rush, you can punish, but if you're like reactively, oh, they expanded, unless they over-expanded, you're not really in a position to punish it too much?
Yeah.
Okay, I actually like that, I think.
Yeah, I think it kind of helps to stabilize the early game.
I like that everyone's provided with a scout unit too, so there is some semblance of like, it's not purely rock, paper, scissors, and it's just like, oh wow, I was wrong. You have the ability to get out there immediately and go ahead and see what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, and that was one of the major pain points from new players and veteran players a lot that we got a lot of feedback on, is like, we want to know what's going on. We want to play with the information. We want to try to get our scout in. We want to be able to make decisions based on information and not have to do any dice rolly type things. So we try to eliminate that as much as we possibly can.
Very cool. We're going to Nurgle. This is a map I've seen a few times. This is a larger map, did you call it?
The biggest map. The biggest map in the pool, bar none. And we started to talk about maps a little bit earlier in the broadcast. And now that we're getting into the game, we can see Nurgle is a gigantic map. And this will work out very similar to StarCraft. If you're on a big map, you're more safe to take expansions. I would say like Nurgle is probably the only map in the pool that it's reasonable to take a blind Nexus first, Hatch first kind of a thing. So it is a little bit map dependent in that way.
Justinius, by the way, in chat, made for you guys a command to the brackets. You can kind of keep up to date with that. There's a Polish stream, a Korean stream. If you go to Vanguard Live, I believe it is.
sunspeargames.com/live.
There you go. Go there. There's all the games. They'll be going on for a while. We're going to be doing this tomorrow as well. This is a tournament. These guys are playing for a $5,000 prize pool provided by these wonderful guys that are building this game. And I had a couple questions on Twitter as well, where people were like, I don't understand, I'm looking at StarCraft, but you're talking about a different game. Much in the tradition of kind of modern games that are going on right now, this is a game that's being built, balanced, and theorized and worked on for years by you guys inside of StarCraft, in the tradition of like Dota and some of the other great games that we've had that have been spawned from other games as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely been we have to thank Blizzard so much for basically providing the service to us and allowing us to do free research and development.
Yeah.
It really just allows, startup companies like us and just people who are passionate about games, who want to make games, who are trying things out, to do it for free and just, okay, if you have the hours and you have the expertise and you're going to put it into it,
you guys
for this part,
sacrificed a lot. Don't sell yourself short.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But to be able to do that is incredible, and we've been working on RTS concepts for a long time. Our lead game designer, Travis, is one of the heads of Starbow, which is a pretty popular mod for a while, and still gets played actually.
Great.
Learned a lot of lessons from that, and we've applied them all here to Vanguard.
Very, very cool. So make sure to check those brackets. This is the winner match. The winner of this, which will absolutely be Innovation Classic, they are just monsters. Are going to advance to play tomorrow for a bigger chunk of that prize pool. But then we also have the loser match and the decider match coming up, so a lot more great Vanguard coming your guys' way. And we are in that feeler stage. You can see the expansions being talked about. as Jack Attack was talking about, we see the Swedes now pushing for that faster third, at least with the Zerg. Did the Zerg in this game still have the kind of swarmy expand style, whereas others are a little bit slower to do that, or do they play differently?
Yeah, so the economies are a little bit more symmetrical.
Okay.
So anyone can decide to play this sort of swarmy style, or anyone can decide not to. Hatcheries cost the same as everything else, and actually everything builds like Protoss.
Okay.
So the drone doesn't get lost when you build structures. The SCV can't be harassed while you're building structures. That's awesome for people like me. You know, it's just a little bit simpler on the low end.
Base building and macro done a little bit easier, I guess. Okay, we are going to have one of those unlocked towers go down. You can see the 25 energy next to it. 25 is not 125, so that's one of the bigger ones, but still 25 is a boost.
Yep. And it's a one-time thing, whereas the construct that spawns every once in a while for 125 energy, that keeps reappearing.
Okay.
So you can cash that in whenever it appears, every few minutes or so. But these are one-time things, so that's one of the other mechanics that basically encourage people to get on the map with units early, so you can get that one-time boost, and that can be a big advantage in a fight.
And then build your own tower there, so maybe a future expand can be a little bit more defensible.
Yeah.
It takes a while to build, though, as you can see there, that progress bar not moving tremendously fast. And here come these heralds you were talking. I mean, in all the games we've seen, this has been it, man.
Yeah. If this was StarCraft, we would start calling it Legacy of the Heralds, because the pro players love this unit. And it looks like no damage done so far. A little bit of dodging happening. I think it was just 1 or 2 drones there.
Yeah.
Nice dodges.
But good positional stuff. It pulls back the whole army, and then here we go. Innovation shoving forward, opting not to go to siege mode, and as I say that, he immediately does do that. That was a big hit over there.
Yep. And we can see the multitasking of these players getting taxed right
now.
now.
And there's that ambush bunker you're talking about. So you guys saw Marauders.
Yep.
You actually place an invisible bunker, and they have to come within a certain range of that
Exactly.
for it to pop. And I love that mechanic. So you can feel like really smart if you put it in a good spot, or I guess you could feel pretty stupid if you put one somewhere and it never gets triggered.
Yep. And we had a lot of fun, silly rush tactics with that in the initial. So there is a modification on that where you can't put it within a certain amount of an enemy structure, so that way you don't get these cheesy situations.
That's why you guys are doing a good job balancing, because anything that can be exploited, you give it to a group of Warhammer or StarCraft players, and they absolutely will. They will find it within 5 minutes, usually. But those heralds continue to be a bit of a problem here, and there's that multitasking you were talking about. I mean, this is Zanster and sort of 2 of the absolute best non-Koreans, certainly 2 of the best Swedes. But Innovation and Classic seem to be distancing themselves in these games.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun for us to see the players visually take advantages. So everyone's kind of in an even footing macro-wise. It's just all about your decisions and your ability to multitask, and we can see now like just the increased amount of multitasking that ends up happening as a result. The skill cap is still impossible to reach. But it's teamwork and it's multitasking and it's tactics that really distinguish you from your opponents.
Very cool. And we're going to have that siege finally broken here. A little bit pushed back. Nicely done there by the Swedes, but still having a little bit of trouble with that harass. But what I like about this too, and you guys can kind of keep seeing this, the harass to my StarCraft program brain is like, this is over. This is the pulling SCVs. He's losing units. That bomb whiffed terribly, but the other ones were pretty good. Nice induction there.
Nice one.
And he's not paying attention, so it's going to go down, it looks like. But it's really slowing him down and giving space, which is a fun mechanic in Vanguard, I think.
Yeah, and we can see now that Innovation and Classic have used this moment to capture, let's see, 6 bases to their opponent's 5, so they're going to be able to start taking that economic edge, and that should be able to propel them forward. And I think the thing that's so good for Innovation and Classic right now is that they're consistently harassing. They're consistently getting 1 workers, 2 workers here, 3 workers here, and it's relentless. And that's the kind of edge that's going to be able to snowball you into a victory.
Okay, very cool. I do like the army composition, though, of our teal Terran here. I'm not sure if that's Zanster or sort of, but able to get those medics out and the ranged Marines. A couple of powers increasing the range, like you were talking about with the powers, is really good. Here come the Wraiths, and they're going to try to do what they can to fight off the Vipers, but the Abduct seems so powerful here as well.
Yeah, and the Wraiths have something called, oh my god, we missed this, but everything is dead at that base. That is a huge hit to the economy after all of these other things. But like I was saying before, the Wraiths have something called reactive cloaking. So the first hit they take within a certain cooldown period, they don't take the damage, they instead go cloak for 3 seconds. So
there it is.
We see it right there. It's one of those kind of hit and run tactics. It's one of the few versions of pure cloak that we have that's not hidden.
Okay.
And that's because we sort of gate it with that only 3-second mechanic. So that way, if you run against Wraiths and you don't have detection, you don't insta-lose the game.
Very cool. Well, we did see a high finish for the Zerg player. What is that top tech? We talked a little bit about Broodlords. Are there Ultralisk equivalents as well?
Yep.
Big Daddies?
Yep, yeah, we got the Ultralisks and the Broodlords. This is the Eternal Swarm Zerg instead of the Monarch Brood Zerg. So
okay.
The Monarch Brood Zerg has a lot of weird units, new units that we've created. And this is more of the classic Brood War style, and we're seeing we're finally getting some fighting back from the Swedes, hanging out there, denying some mining.
Yeah, he's going to be able to push in there and find that reinforcement point off that Stargate you were talking about. But even in the midst of this, Classic is taking a 4th base. He's got a big army moving over to respond to the Teal Terran. This harass is nice, but is it going to be enough? That army is getting pretty scary over here on the right side.
Yeah, we're moving into a 6 base against 8 or 9. They're pretty much they're taking every base on the map right now.
Yeah.
It's theirs. They own the map. They're like, okay, Sweden, get out of here. This is a Korean map now. We own it.
They're so strong too because they self-populate. I mean, if you can take it and afford it, but almost by virtue of expanding like that, you absolutely can afford it. If you don't do something about that expansion, it becomes such a huge problem for you very quickly, I find.
Yeah, and this is really the moment.
Oh
gosh.
The Baneling. Always the Baneling.
Yeah, Banelings are still strong in this game as well. And especially against Zealot High Templar, if the High Templar can't deny them getting in the area. But right now, the Speedling is really the tool that I think they need to leverage to be able to come back into this game. They need to. The bases are very spread out. And we saw in the top right, just disappearing. That base, what was getting expanded, is gone now. And if they can spread out their enemies and they can start doing harass all over the map using the mobility of the Zergling, they might be able to get back into this.
And there is one of those Xel'Naga constructs going down that Jack Tag was talking about earlier. That's 125 energy, so that's roughly 2 powers. If you have anything else saved up, then it could be potentially more. I'm liking the composition of our Swedes, but one of the things you had pointed out earlier is just the lack of harass. We saw that nice little Ling attack. That was the main base, so that's really good. But if you look at that mini-map, otherwise, nothing. And they're getting kind of cordoned off by all those expansions, and if they can't respond to it, I just fear for them.
Yeah, and just their army size has been really, we're getting to a really big fight here. Nice splits, of course, by innovation, but overall just the size. And this is one of those, yeah, that tower and the teamwork, that was a 2 versus 1. This is one of those things where comeback can happen. But as you can see, the other player on the team, Classic, moving into the base. Innovation distracts both armies over to the left side of the map, and the right side of the map we see them rushing through directly into the natural base.
And you can see the defensive structures doing it. I mean, they're not able to fight off the army. They just kind of buy some time. The Swedes are going to respond by trying to take on this expansion. And I think he certainly will with all that kind of bio force over there. But in doing so, they lost one of theirs. And these Immortals are pushing for high ground. Getting on top of production, that's just an RTS concept.
Yep.
It's almost death.
Yep, that is 100% death. And it's even stronger in Vanguard because, again,
ooh.
Oh, nice. That was a sped up Baneling. They used the spell to make sure it got into range there. Nicely done. For the defense. But yeah, your production counts as your supply as well. So if you get on top of that production, you start losing production structures, that reduces the size, the maximum size of your army, which is really, really critical.
And they're expensive, like you said, so even if in some situations you have a bank, it could potentially not matter because you're rebuilding the things to rebuild the things.
Absolutely.
All right, so the Hive is under attack here a little bit from those. Are those Lancers still in the Immortal skin?
Those are Immortals. Nope.
They're Immortals.
Yeah,
I saw the cooldown. What's that for them?
So for them, they have a 4-second cooldown similar to the Lancer. If they stay still for a certain amount of time, they get a defensive buff, a shield that keeps them alive a little bit longer.
The tanky unit there as well.
Oh, and some cheeky play over here from Classic. He just took the base. He doesn't need to commit units. He just took the fortification. He's going to harass that base with energy.
What is that? Like almost what does the Ultra do in this game?
So the Ultra has a radius around it that does 7 DPS that actually scales with upgrades. So it's a really big
anti-melee.
Anti-melee, anti-Zergling, Baneling, things like that. And of course, it's got like 850 hit points, and it's got really good base armor. It's a very tanky unit. It's your frontline fighter. It functions very similarly to the Ultralisk that we're used to.
Here it comes. It's Father Nurgle on the map Nurgle here, jumping out, and it's just, yeah, you can see it. Just, if you're not prepared for that, it will chew and eat you alive. But I mean, it's just, you look around the map and there's just constantly, this Bioforce is doing what it can, and that's nice. but they're fighting like really peripheral expansions or just losing theirs in the backfield. So this isn't quite harass, but it's like it's army attacks on top of production and top of expansions, kind of chipping away in that war of attrition.
Oh, it looks like we're going to get a little sandwich here. A 2-on-1 situation. If you can keep the tanks alive and flank in with the Zerg, we should get into a pretty nice spot here. Kiting with the bio in the bottom section. But is he able to take out those Protoss forces?
Oh, they're just coming everywhere, though. Bioforce is going to die, but can the Ultras stand up to this? You can see they're getting the Zealot pairing. That's okay, but with the Immortals being left to their own devices, they're going to do a lot of damage in the midst of this. Look at that.
Yep. The harassment never stops. This pure multitasking out of classic innovation is just phenomenal to watch. Not just one harasser, but two happening all the time. And it's just really great to see.
Take that defensive structure. Teal Terran here doing what it can, trying to hold this off, but it's just... Well, the Zerg has gotten up to 4 bases. Ultras seem to be strong right now. And he's going to add some Banelings. The Banelings have been really effective.
Definitely. The main thing that the Swedish team needs right now is some decisive army fights. They need to be able to destroy their opponent's army because we're coming up on that 16-minute mark. It's a really important time because the mains start mining out, and then if you happen to be down on army when your main mines out and you don't have enough auxiliary expansions, you're going to be dead.
Here's one of those powers coming into effect that you talked about. Talk to me a little bit, kind of almost expounding upon the point you just made. Talk to me about comeback potential. How much exists in this game, do you find, that someone can fall behind and then still come back?
Well, I think a lot of the comeback potential in this game comes from our increased defender's advantage. So the workers are stronger, we have these fortifications out on the map, and then the production cycles are really quick. So if you lose a fight in the middle of the map and your army, your opponent's army comes into your base, you can reproduce your army assuming that you have the bank. That's like the really important thing. And then I think finally the other thing that gives you a lot of comeback potential is unit switching, composition changing, and tactics. There's a lot of positional units, and you have a lot of freedom to change your unit composition. So it's not like you're just like, oh, well, I just go Lingbane Muta, and that's my plan for this matchup. It's a lot of shifting available to you.
Blocking the ramp, cute move from Classic so that he can take the high ground. He is on top of that production. Zerg does have Abductors, going to dislodge that, of course, but still a cute move. A couple of feedbacks going down. Getting the Vipers low in health, as you can see, but still not actually affecting their energy, so very different in this game. But it looks like the Swedish team is going to be able to clean that up, quote unquote. But it's like they put out the fires, but they still have a building to rebuild, basically.
Yeah, this is the story of relentless aggression. It has never stopped since the beginning of the game, and we're seeing this sort of comeback potential like we were talking about before. They're not dead. They're not eliminated immediately as they lose advantage. They have opportunities to take fights, but they're just consistently a little bit behind each time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine where this would go to try and get the comeback. I like what you talked about with like using defensive structure so it's hard to attack. You can get overzealous and go into a choke or high ground and kind of have the fight turn against you. But one of the things kind of lacking that I am seeing Innovation's team do a much better job of is they'll be fighting, but then dropping an expansion. They'll have some kind of harass going. In a 2 vs 2 game like this where there's just so much going on, I feel like at the high end, which is exactly what we're seeing with that tap out from Zanster, from Innovation and Classic, you're seeing both big game fights, aggression, but then also harass, which is weird because normally in StarCraft or other RTS it's very segmented. It's like, I'm in the harass phase, I'm harassing, maybe it wins me some space and then there is an attack, but there's not really both simultaneously happening. In my short experience with this game, it feels like you have to be doing both if you want to really get a decisive advantage.
Yeah, and I think that's really just a factor of the shift in attention APM from macro over to micro. All of a sudden, these pros who are used to spending a certain amount of time in their base doing base management, now they have this freed up and like, oh, I could drop with that. I could, harass with that. I can get an edge with that. And the idea behind that, the reason why we switched over to that, there's a lot of them, but one of them is that it's a lot more visual sort of impact for the spectator. Macro isn't something that you can see. It's not something you can be like, oh man, did you see him just macro? Man, that was awesome. But harassment, you can see it all the time, and that's really one of the things we're trying to up the spectator experience for the game.
Okay, very cool. Well, Classic Innovation take that one. That is 2-0 for them, I think, right?
Yep.
So we're going to head into that third game, but they 3-0'd their first match. You guys saw a couple of those games of the best of 5. very one-sided. And this, I definitely like the ideas we were seeing percolating from the Swedish team. They were definitely putting up more of a fight. But Classic Innovation didn't seem in danger ever that entire time. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they can make more of a fight in yet another game here.
Yeah, and assuming that Classic Innovation move on, which they are the favorites right now, very clearly, it'll be interesting to see someone other than Classic Innovation playing the game. We might be able to get a little bit more back and forth action going on. But I mean, I think I'm really happy that the raw skill that they have transfers over, because I think that's one of the things that people worry about when we had that whole discussion in the StarCraft community
make
with
the game too simple,
the removal of macro mechanics. Like, is the game going to be too easy? Like, is this a problem? And
I think for RTS people in general, that'd be a huge turnoff as well. Like,
oh yeah,
people ask for an easier game, but if they were actually given a mega simple RTS, it seems to have a very shallow experience, I find.
Yeah, I think, and shallow is the perfect word for that, because it's not really about the complexity of the game, but more about the depth.
Right.
Can you continue to combine these basic elements to, make a better strategy, similar to chess, in that you have a very limited number of pieces to work with, but the combinations are nearly infinite.
Which, it's early stages, obviously, as we are seeing this in StarCraft, but like I can tell you right now, I mean, it's cool to see innovation in classic play and feel like you can't do what they're doing as well. I think that's also an important part of an RTS, especially in the tradition of StarCraft, where like a big appeal of it is going to be the skill ceiling.
Yes.
And when I watch innovation and when I watch classic, I go, okay, that is some talent, that's some skill. It's cool hearing that classic is new to it, so you can actually pick up on it pretty quick, but to execute that kind of micro like you talked about, it takes something special. And for me personally, that's what interests me in this game, is that I wouldn't want to sit down, move at 38 p.m. and be like one of the best. I think that'd be really dumb, but that's not the case at all.
Absolutely not the case. The skill ceiling is currently infinite. It has not been hit yet. I don't think it will ever be hit, but time will tell as we get into the scouting segment of our game on Karina. And we're seeing relatively normally timed bases from everyone. It's so funny. The risk versus reward factor of the early aggression, although like we were talking about before, you can get into very early aggression scenarios. Most of these players are just sort of like, no, we want to win in the mid game.
Yeah.
We're going to take our bases, we're going to out multitask you, and we're going to win. Maybe if you're anyone but Classic Innovation, you try something else. But it's really cool to see that all these players are giving us really cool games to see, long games full of mechanics, multitasking, and things like that.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about like map design here as well. I'm seeing, what kind of considerations go into it in terms of giving diverse gameplay as well? Because that is a big discussion in RTS as Dawn War 3 came out, and one of the kind of criticisms of that was the lack of map pool. Talk about your guys' philosophy with maps.
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to Kentuva. Kentuva has made all 7 of these maps, and it's been really great working with him, building these maps, tweaking them, etc. And a lot of the design concepts are going to be ones that you're used to. The more you spread out the bases, the more open spaces, better for melee units and surrounds and things like that. One of the sort of special considerations for these kind of maps is the fortification points. Okay. Where they're placed makes a really big deal, and also the construct. So on this map, the construct is in the very center of the map, and that's going to have a sort of, if you're ahead, you'll be able to snowball it a lot more. Whereas on other maps, they'll be towards the sides, where players can sneak 125 energy and then use that spell to gain advantage to come back in a bad situation, things like that. But where the fortifications are placed and how they start. So some of them will start empty, some of them will start with the neutral Xel'Naga towers on them, and some of them will start with your own personal towers to help you in your defense against rushes and things like that.
Okay.
So where they're placed and how exactly they exist in the beginning of the game has a pretty big impact on especially the early game, but as the game plays out.
You can kind of see that being utilized here with Team Innovation. You trying to get a forward construct up there so that they can have as like a launch point. And they're going to go ahead and try and deny this 3rd expansion. Meanwhile, behind this, we were kind of talking about this, they're only on 2 bases. So this is a little bit of that 2 base trying to stem and work against the 3 or 5 base, I guess, if you talk about the total expansion.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that we have to move our playtesters and our players away from. We're so used to this single player mentality that players will be like, well, what's the big deal? I had one more base. It's like, no, you have a teammate. You're playing 5 base against 3 right now, so you need to defend.
Right.
Even though you're the person who's on 1 base and your ally is on 4, that doesn't mean you're the aggressor in that particular scenario.
You can see double Evo chamber coming out. That's a pretty early emphasis on upgrades. Talk a little bit. We talked about how upgrades are universal. That's cool, but what's the impact of upgrades? In StarCraft, they're pretty severe. If someone has a 2 or 3 upgrade advantage in like their bio going up against, like, let's say a Zerg, that seems to have a huge impact. How does it feel in Vanguard?
I think upgrades are very strong in Vanguard, especially because they have that universal impact. So far in playtesting, we've found that the attack upgrade is particularly strong. So the cost of the upgrades have been adjusted in that way, so the attacking upgrades are more expensive than the armor upgrades. So it's a little bit different, but yes, they still play a major factor if you're fighting against an opponent with with less upgrades than you. You're going to get an edge. But I think a lot of the positional spells, like the Diamondback spell with Herald Bombs and things like that, things that cut through armor and upgrades, tend to outclass just the pure, I have a big army and a lot of upgrades, what are you going to do about it?
Okay, interesting. And we are seeing that classic, like quite literally actually, Herald Harass. Taking a little bit, it seems to be, ooh, nice bomb use there, actually trimming down the bio, but the bio pops out right over there to the left as well. You can see the high health of these units kind of coming into effect. They're taking a lot of damage, but actually flying closer to that one. It's getting real close. It does end up actually getting one of the Heralds. That's a pretty good victory there. How expensive are Heralds actually?
Heralds are quite expensive.
Okay, so
they're on the expensive side. It's a significant investment. And on top of that, Heralds also have a health upgrade, so they can become even more tanky. So as you get into the middle game fights, you can get that upgrade and transition that unit from a harassment unit more into a combat bomber, so you can fight and drop the bombs during the fight. So that way you have some sort of incentive to keep it alive other than just harass. But these players are really good with the Heralds, so they just keep harassing.
We're going to have that fight over here. Zergling's coming in from the right side, fighting by support, so that tower actually doing so much work against that. And then bio versus bio on the left side, but it seems to be tilting in favor of our Swedes here. The Zerglings are able to overrun this, backed by that bio. The tower, at least at this stage, from what I've seen from its use, this one, of course, much more powerful on the offensive, but the other one's very defensive. It's got a lot of health, but it doesn't pack a whole wall up, I guess.
Yeah,
this one right here.
Yeah, so all the towers are the same in terms of stats. So they're exactly the same.
That one's the same as the other one we just saw?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
They're just styled differently for the different races.
Okay, cool.
But they are very much more of a health thing. They have 1600 HP. They don't do that much damage. It's definitely more of a buying time mechanic than it is I'm going to hold this against an army. They're relatively easy to take down, but it takes a long time. So that allows the defensive player to move their army into position and support with the tower.
Innovation and Classic did a good job being very forward, but they were overran, and that means that the Swedes have busted out, but they're busting out to a pretty dangerous world. You can see that Classic is on 3 expansions, and Innovation's going for 5. So it's 8 bases against 4, going on 6 here for our Swedes. That's a rough spot.
Yeah, this is definitely their moment to capitalize on their army advantage. They've defended that attack very well, and their opponents are being really greedy. And so if they can scout that, if they know that that's what's going on, then they're going to be able to make a decisive strike. But I haven't seen any scouting units move over into the left side, so I don't think that they know that that's the case.
Something about right side base got spotted, I guess.
Yeah. Ooh, just a little bit of a.
I like that about the bombs. They're not very fast, so I mean, I think a lot of people look at that and naturally be like, "Oh, that's terrible," but it's really just another check against your multitasking. If you're not paying attention, that'll wipe the mineral line like we saw in the last game, but if you are paying attention, you should be able to dodge it.
Yep, nice position here from Innovation and Classic, but I don't think they have the size, and the Swedish team is able to fight them one army at a time. Coordination and teamwork, incredibly powerful. They're not to be discounted.
Our first falter, I think, from Innovation and Classic. They do still have that gigantic army, but a macro behind this.
Are they going right? This might be a little bit of a misstep. Going right into the main like this. They had a couple of vulnerable expansions over the left side, but delaying too long and not being decisive about taking the satellite expansions and trying to maybe go into the main has cost them this engagement.
Like you said, I wouldn't quite call it the comeback material, but that is them being a little bit too greedy, like you talked about. And then one of the things I noticed again is if you look at that middle, the mini map, excuse me, there was some harass occurring behind that still, and I think that's going to be a theme we're going to see as long as we watch Innovation Classic. Is that you may be fighting them, but they are going to stretch out your actions. And again, a nice fight here for our Swedes as they back up and are able to deplete the army of Classic over here. But I just look at Innovation, I think. And there it is. You have some harass units being chased on the minimap. You can kind of see them going across the map. They're just always working on your mineral line.
Yep. And on top of that, they've created the space out on the map. The Swedish team has not been able to capitalize on it, and now they've got that economic edge. They've turned basically a losing fight into an economic lead, which is really nice and unfortunate for our Swedish team, as I don't think were aware of the bases on the left side. One of the things to know about scouting units, they're completely free. They cost no time. They produce automatically. You can only have 2 out at a time. So as soon as you learn, you lose your first of 2 scouts, another one begins to produce. So really, just sending those scouting units out constantly, looking for free, looking for, oh, this is going to be potentially a nice harassment here from Classic. A lot of units are in position, but he's already starting to wail in that mineral line.
Good response here, though, from our Teal Terran, able to pull back over here. And one of the kind of funny things you can see, too, is that workers are no joke in Vanguard. They can defend themselves. Obviously, it's not ideal because it's time not working or, dying, of course, affecting your economy. But they can turn around and they can put a punch into somebody.
Yep, that's a big part of the defender's advantage, a big part of the comeback potential. And as we can see, the other bigger part of that is having a bigger economy than your opponent. It still matters to have more stuff than the other guy. Turns out, it's still good. It should, and so far we've hopefully succeeded on that. Looks like it's working out pretty well.
And now both the players are splitting up here. We have Innovation on the left side. He's facing a bigger Bioforce, so he's going to have to pull back, and wisely does so. And here comes the big blue blob. You can see that too. That's Berserk Buddy. Interesting, actually, because they're split up like this. Yes, there's some good harass happening. And you can kind of see the mechanic of Vanguard that I really enjoy. Sometimes you watch your army get absolutely annihilated, and our brains are trained to be like, well, that's it. I mean, you lose the army, you're dead. But as long as your partner is like picking off expansions and your production line is not in danger, you can come back from that quite easily.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a big part of the comeback potential that I haven't talked about yet, is the fact that it's a 2v2. Just because it's a 2v2
right
in that moment in time, especially when you're behind, in a competitive environment, all your senses are turned up. You're fighting for your life. You're fighting for the life of your ally. It gives them space to come back, to rebuild, etc. You have a little bit of a potential overextension there. Getting the siege tank set up, though, this is definitely a better army composition for the Swedes.
He's able to push him back. Innovation is spread out at the top of that map. You can see that micro in play. But during all of this, Classic is just wrecking face. I mean, that's going to drop the Zerg to 2 bases. And we're at the 11-minute mark, so there's about 5-ish minutes left, and now some harass coming out here as well. That's good, but again, being deflected. But just Classic being left to do whatever he wants. Now he's taking a couple of towers. He's really starting to snowball.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of the map, we do have a nice little siege move. It should be able to protect him. But on the other side of the map, the main might be vulnerable here to an attack, as this army is really huge, and they don't have the siege tanks to sort of hold the ground at home, attacking in 2 different locations through 2 different ramps. Oh man, this might be the end of it.
Yeah, that expansion represents 50% of the income for the Zerg, of course, but they're, like you said, so close. There's that ambush bunker about to go up. It does go off, so some units are going to come out from there. Of course, they're facing overwhelming odds, so the effect is not very much. But that is their powers, guys. That's them trying to do what they can. And this army on the left side is being left to do a lot of damage, but I just, that classic question of at what cost? At what cost?
At the cost of the video game, it looks like GG from Zanster and sort of Classic Innovation, unsurprisingly, moving out of the group with 2 quick 3-0s. So I hope you've been enjoying the casts and all of that so far. We're going to be getting into the losers match next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. The losers match has already been played. Unfortunately, our North American hopes, Pili Pili and No Regret, already out of the tournament, knocked out in swift fashion. We have here Myungshik and Hurricane against our Swedish players, Zanster and Sort of.
And I'll be really curious to see how this goes because both of these teams are probably a lot closer in skill. We saw the Swedes; they were starting, and it was cool. They were adapting, they were learning. I think they were just being outmatched quite a bit by Innovation Classic, our early favorites for the tournament. But then they'll be taking on a team that we also saw earlier and gave a pretty good fight, but also got 3-0'd by the same team. So they both. They share that in common, I guess.
Yeah, we were talking about during the break. They were 3-0s, but the individual games themselves were quite close.
Yeah.
No proper steamrolls just yet.
Not in the traditional RTS sense where one team just looks like they absolutely have no idea what's going on and they're dead. They were I feel like they were series steamrolls in the sense that again, Classic Innovation never were in any danger. They lost some fights. There was some more pushback. They had a couple expansions killed, and I did like what I think it's Zanster playing Terran.
Yep.
It is Zanster on the Terran, right?
Yep.
He did a good job with that in that last game, putting them a little bit to the coals with that base trade kind of situation going on. But the army of Classic was it was unperturbed that whole last game. It killed 3 expansions, was never touched. And then they were like, well, I guess we've done enough economic damage that whatever you remake, let's just go end the game. And that seemed to be what happened.
Yeah, sort of a death by 1,000 cuts kind of a scenario. And we do see double Protoss. Wait, is this from
Teal and blue are Protoss, yep.
Okay, so...
Maybe a switch up there. Hurricane is, Hurricane and Myungshik, actually they played Protoss. I think.
Oh yeah, I'm just so used to casting Classic Innovation.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, they're already out of the group. Here we are.
We'll be seeing them tomorrow.
Yep. One of the things though that we're really working on, and it's definitely something that it's a work in progress. We're trying to optimize the game in such a way that it's a lot easier to multi-race and to multi-class
right.
and to spread out. Because for the future of the game, we want to have a lot more races, a lot more commanders, and things like that. Up to 12 and 21 and more.
Wow.
Yeah, so, for the future of this game, there'll be picks and bans and sort of like a hybrid kind of a competitive system between what a MOBA is and what RTS is as we see it now.
You can already see some of those elements with the static defensive structures and the idea of killing one and gaining a resource that benefits you. So I think that's a pretty cool combination, but this proxy Stargate will be scouted. There's, of course, the first Herald coming out.
And some really early aggression from the Zerg player, from the Protoss player. It will be cleaned up relatively quickly with almost no damage done.
I like it though because I do feel like it's occupying. The proxy was scouted, so we are seeing an answer here. Oh, what is that?
So that is an attack rate slow. Whenever the scout hits something, it slows its attack rate.
Oh, cool.
So you can use that against regular units, but it's oftentimes used against siege tanks and things like that with very long fire delays.
Very cool. So a nice little kind of support unit in this role. Trying to vary it up here. We also have some Void Rays coming out of blue Protoss here. That's the first Void Rays Nope, never mind. No, it was a Liberator that had that laser. What does a Void Ray do?
So the Void Ray has a skill shots called the Shadow Cannon.
Shadow Cannon, okay.
Yeah, and it does damage over a period of time into a particular area.
Why are there probes coming out? Is he actually going to attack with probes? Blue's making his way across the map. Ace hasn't showed us this just yet, other than that glimpse. He's got to be transferring. There's no way he's doing that.
Is maybe a mistake, like a miss micro or something like that?
I think Ace is showing us the Banshee that was maybe threatening. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think there was like a box situation going on. He ran really... What? Wait a minute. He's got all kinds of extra workers. He's fully saturated on his bases, but he's got all kinds of extra workers right now.
Maybe he is using them as a bit of an army. It's a good way to quickly supply a base if he throws one down, I guess, but he's not. He's taking the middle base, actually. So maybe he's pulled them off to remake the other one so that he can immediately saturate that third base.
He can definitely immediately saturate the third base with that. And he has it grouped with his army, which is throwing me off. See the scouts, they're going to clean up the Banshee. That's what they do. They're the air superiority fighter. But
there's probes there too.
I feel something fishy going on. I feel like this is something that they're testing. This is something they're trying out. They're like, wait, workers make automatically, and they're pretty strong. They cost minerals, but not too much. Maybe it's worth just throwing them into the army for extra body. We may have the first pulling the boys of Vanguard here today.
That would be interesting. 125 energy going to the way of sort of there. Grabbing that tower. Definitely a more competitive match here. We're seeing a little bit of experimentation like you talked about. I think they're saturating right there, so I do feel like what they're experimenting with, at least in part, is yes, they're good at fighting, but maybe not for like a timing attack type of an idea. More of a like, I'll defend with these, I guess, because that's not a big deal. But by pulling them off early, you're able to resaturate and then immediately saturate a new base, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're with your army, it acts as a sort of protecting.
Yeah.
You know, you're not transferring them, and they're easily getting picked off, something like that.
Sure.
Zelnaga is spawning in the middle of the map, so that's that 125 energy construct. They are in position to take it. We'll see if they go. Ooh, nice little bit of harass over here. Generally out of position just by a small amount. It's going to allow some of these workers to go down, and just little bits at a time, like we saw before with the other matches. Just a couple workers here, a couple workers there, trying to gain an edge. It looks like the Swedish team has the advantage here.
Definitely a huge part of this game, and you can kind of see both these teams like learning the hard-fought lesson that Team Innovation and Classic gave to them, which is that you need to be able to harass, but you need to actually be able to harass while fighting. So right now, both teams doing what they can to fight this tower and to kind of deal with the harass, but I'm going to be interested to see if that falls off during the attack, because I really liked your comment earlier, Jack Attack, about how when you transfer actions away from managing base building and economy, that frees up actions, and that shouldn't just be about attacking. It should be diversifying your attacking and harassing with it.
Yeah, and hopefully the goal is we've given the players enough tools where they're able to do that effectively, and that's kind of a tricky balance. And shout out to Travis and Theo for making that happen. He lost a lot of workers there, but I mean that was a bunch of banelings. That was a lot of gas for all minerals. And it's not going to hurt his economy immediately.
But they're losing 2 bases. That's the big part. That wins free space there. You can see this Bioforce showing up over here. It looks like it might not score the death blow on that expansion and will back away a little bit, especially since the army up there did clean up that force. But an expansion goes down, and we come back to that concept of let's count the bases. For our Swedish team down here, it's looking to be 6 going on 7 versus just the 5 going on 6 for their counterparts. So that's kind of the clear indicator for me.
Yeah, and we're starting. Ooh, this is very interesting. Our blue player is very far out on the map and all alone with no help at all. But there's a surprising lack of anti-air in these armies, and we might get to see some shadow cannons come down in just a bit. Whoop, that was a glitch.
Well, here's that anti-air you were talking about. They're going to move in here, and again, curiously by himself. I'm not seeing much of any teal in this at all. He's just kind of back at home rebuilding.
Yep. We do have the Goliath now in play. Goliath Marine going to be very strong against this composition, but they have to be careful for those shadow cannons, which we did see going off in that last fight. You have to dodge them and be paying very close attention to what's going on. And it looks like you will be able to, look at that manual control of just the Goliaths. And there we go, the shadow cannons raining death from above. Farah doesn't have anything on this.
Ultimately, they will get pushed back. There comes the Zerg, that 2-on-1 scenario as you talked about. And I guess Teal was just way, way behind, because if you look at that mini-map, he's now bringing some Zealots and some Templar to try and reinforce, but just getting up to 3 bases on that right side, if it's allowed to expand there, you can feel their desperation.
Yeah, he's had almost no army this whole time, and I think this is more of that teammate comeback potential kind of a thing. Go across the map, buy time so they're not harassing you, so you can get back up on your feet and just trying to get that going. But look at this army. That is some oppressive, just pure bulk. That is going to be very difficult to deal with for especially the teal player.
They're muscling up. They're going to go for that left side center base, which is the more forward base. And as you said, you can turtle in this game, but with the expansions kind of trickling towards the more center part of the map, it's harder to do that. So he's going to be able to fight here. Some shadow cannons doing what they can, but mostly whipping. I do like how skill shots are not like instant, they just happen for the most part. You are able to kind of negotiate where and how effective they are, I guess.
Yeah, it was a really important design priority for us to introduce as much counterplay as possible, as much interaction from both sides. Everyone gets a say in what's going on. The storms are going down. We have a lot of dodging from our Swedish team, and it looks like landing the connections on those Banelings and the High Templar in the background. It looks like they have enough to break through. This may be the end of the game as our blue team just falls apart in terms of army size. Teal has not been able to get back into the game, and a couple of more Baneling morphs, and this is really, really hard to deal with.
Pretty
No
cool.
storm energy.
Like StarCraft, you can see the medics healing Hydras, right? So your units can actually work across the board. with each
Yep,
other.
and that works in the same way. It has to be a biological unit.
Cool.
So Raynor, who has actually both have medics, but Raynor particularly is very, very good at pairing with the Zergs. That's one of the cool things that I'm really excited to see develop as we get more playtesting, more play from
Synergy
professional
between
players.
all.
Yeah, which pairings work best, which commanders counter others, and
Awesome.
once we get into that picks and bans kind of development in the future, that's going to be really, really fun to see how it plays out.
All right, very cool. We're sort of leading the way here. They seem to be, I mean, there's like high ground, don't come up here type of mentality coming out from the Korean team, but the Swedes have found the space. They're devastating. On the left side, you can see that kind of, it became a hidden base, was scouted, so this too is at the mercy of when the Swedes want to clamp down on it. And Myung-Sik and Hurricane, unfortunately, they're playing cleanup crew, but not even able to decisively do that. And anytime you're in that situation, you're on a sinking ship, it feels like.
Yeah, and this is actually a really good example of why it's important to think of expansions as from a team mentality. You really ought to be thinking, where are we going to expand, rather than like, I'm on the left side, I'll expand
Right.
left. On this map in particular, it's a lot easier to split the map either horizontally or vertically than it is to try to cut that diagonal line, because you'll have less space to defend. And we can see that being abused here by the Swedish team, coming in from all angles, finding that space to take out the bases. And this may be...
Yeah, this has got to be. This is the big fight. The Void Rays, which have been trying to do what they can, are going to get surrounded and absolutely destroyed. Really good synergy from that army. The Hydras being able to be healed by those medics, and just a great play from our Swedes actually that time. They were the ones in the driver's seat that time.
Yeah, they looked pretty dominant, and it's very interesting to see, especially in our earlier tournaments. We had a couple of closed tournaments before for some testing purposes and things like that. It seemed that the pure mechanics of the Korean teams would generally overpower, but we've done a lot of tweaking and balancing, and it's cool to see I think the strategic decisions of the Swedish team really overruling there in that situation and winning them the first game.
Well, they did a much better job of handling the harass that time. I felt like that was one of the kind of defining factors. We did see Myung-Sik and Hurricane go for those heralds. They were doing kind of the classic harass. If you're a Protoss, you're going to make heralds. It seems to be the case in this game. But they had bio in place. They had spore colonies eventually as well, and it didn't do as much damage. I also wonder, the Scout it has that slow, but it seems to be better in the role of anti-air. Would you say that's
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, its role is the air superiority fighter, and we give it a little bit of sort of interesting thing where it does that attack speed slow.
Yeah.
Just so it's really awful to have a unit that's in the air that you overproduce and then you can literally do nothing with it. So we try to reduce that as much as possible, especially because we want to encourage more unit composition switching, more flexibility in what you do. So the game sort of functions more like a respawn shooter than it does more like something like CSGO.
Very cool. Okay, well that's going to be 1-0 in favor of the Swedes. This is the decider match for this group. We're just doing this group today, guys. There is still a Korean stream going on in Crank. You can go to sunspeargames.com/live.
Nailed it.
To see all of these streams. There's also a Polish one. A lot of big name players. If you're a StarCraft fan, I'm recognizing everybody. I guess Damaga's playing in there. I just saw.
Yep,
There's all
Nurchio's
kinds
playing.
of big names. Nurchio for that Polish stream.
Gumio.
Definitely check them out. And then as far as watching the stuff after, I know that if you're watching my stream, the VODs are sub only, which is for some of you going to be unfortunate, but for others, maybe that's super awesome. I think some of this is going to go to YouTube. Do you guys do that?
Yep, definitely.
Put up on YouTube?
We just started the YouTube channel, and you see we don't have a URL just yet, but we'll get that link to you in the chat, and so you can check it out. We have a couple of faction spotlights to sort of overview the different units, what's different, what's the same as StarCraft.
I think that's one
tutorials.
thing we haven't talked about, but for a lot of people who are getting kind of a first look at this, you guys didn't whip this up in a weekend. You've been working on it for a while.
Yeah, so we've been under development basically for the past 4 years, and we've gone through different iterations. We've gone through different names of the project. Like this is something that we've been honing for a very long period of time, and just to get a better sense of how do you make an RTS that's social, that's accessible to the new player, but it's also just as fun and exciting and engaging to play, and has that long, high player, life expectancy.
Very cool. So there's a lot of stuff out there, guys. They even have some artwork they've been tweeting out and have available, I believe, for public consumption, so you guys can check it out. If you're enjoying yourself, make sure and dive into it. They're excited. I know that Dylan, one of the original, if not the original, brainchild of the project, is in the chat as well, answering questions. So for this weekend, look forward to finding out all that you can, I guess is what I would say.
Yep, yeah, and you can find all of that artwork at sunspeargames.com/world. As we get into this game on Nurgle, and the first game did go to the Swedes, but we'll have to see if the
In convincing
Korean team
fashion, I would say.
Yeah, they had control of pretty much that whole game. And this is a very different map. We've cast it a couple times now. This is Nurgle. It's gonna go a little bit later. It's gonna get into the mid game a little bit faster. Fast expansions are going to be more likely. I think everyone has gone expansion first.
They have, and really for me so far, we've now seen 7 or 8 games or whatever it is, but it feels like the real decision between these pro players is when to take the third base. Everyone agrees you take the second base immediately, but and there you can see the Worker Revolt, by the way, because you're used to seeing a Reaper or whatever the hell that Zerg bubble thing is walking around.
The Zerg Bulldog.
It's like, oh no, they're in the Workers, they're in trouble. Nah, the Workers are pretty nasty in this. They actually just, there you go. Good shot.
Yeah, scouts are for scouting. It's very much intentionally built that way. They're there to gain information, and we're used to doing some harass with the scouting units, and pro players are always going to use every bit of APM they can to get any bit of edge that they can, but they're very much purposely designed for scouting. They don't cost any money. They're there to make sure that the game stabilizes in terms of information, that you're always pretty much able to make good decisions based on information instead of guesses.
And we see that proxy probably being set up over there. Talk to me a little bit about, we haven't seen it, so maybe it's not even really a big deal. You've talked about cloaking and some of the kind of like temporary hidden stuff. Is there any Dark Templar type thing in this game where they're just always invisible and doing damage, or no?
There are a few pure cloak units. The Dark Templar is not one of them.
Okay.
The Dark Templar has hidden 2, so you have to get you have to pretty much get in melee range to see the Dark Templar. So they can still do a lot of damage, but you're not hopelessly lost if you didn't build detectors and DT.
So more escapability for it, I guess.
Yeah,
as opposed to,
definitely. And it's a little more of a softer mechanic than the hard cloak.
Cool.
Observers have hard cloak, stasis wards have hard cloak, and then the race that we talked about earlier. But aside from that, almost everything is that new mechanic that we've been developing called Hidden.
And then talk to me a little bit too about commanders, because I know that's one of the areas we can get diversification in the different abilities they have, I guess, right? You talk about how there's like one that almost all of them share, which is usually an attack buff or speed buff of some sort.
Yep.
And then how crazy can the powers get in terms of the different commanders, I guess?
Yeah, well, Phoenix has an immortality spell that makes all of his units in an area invulnerable. That's incredibly strong. We see that a lot. Used to snipe bases sometimes. If you're like really close, a few more hit points, you toss that down, you can finish off the base. It can make a big difference. We've seen ambush bunkers and that sensor tower-like thing, which gives them the range. We've got a speed buff for the Overmind Zerg. So this Zerg has an extra speed buff. You have the speed buff, that's the normal spell, speed buff and attack speed, but this is like a super speed buff.
Wow. And
that ensures that any of your Scourge, which we haven't seen yet, but we might, or Banelings can really get right into the thick of it, despite whatever they have going on.
Okay. And here is some of that harass, but they're actually just going to pick off some range, which I think is one of the kind of cool delay tactics. Like in a lot of games, that is straight up damage, but because of how swarmy this game can get, and just kind of, you are going to lose armies. Losing a couple of Marines to deny harass seems to be a pretty big deal. And then the Zerglings do end up finding the Stargate and destroying it. And actually, one of the kind of quick things you can see there is structures go down pretty quick as well. I mean, non-town hall structures, I guess.
Yeah. The hit points are pretty much only modified for the production structures because they're more expensive and they have more utility. But for the rest of it, it's relatively similar. Zerglings are pretty good at killing buildings, especially if you get that adrenal upgrade gland, which the same as StarCraft. It actually gives them a little bit of extra speed boost as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so you can move in, you can snipe the structures. It's something that Overmind does very well with the Zerglings.
And here we go. Our Koreans are pushing back. It is 5 base versus 5 base for both teams. So all things said and done, harass being denied or being kind of minorly effective seems to stabilize here as well. Because again, harass is you having your army back at home having to deal with that, which does free up space, which I can see being a big concept when there's 4 players swinging around with big armies.
Yep. Yeah. Tension is a huge resource, as it is in all RTS, but especially when you have the kind of level of multitasking that we tend to see from Vanguard. And of course, not to be forgotten, workers still cost minerals. This is something we have to tell our StarCraft 2 players, playtesters, pretty often.
Made for free, but they cost. Or, I mean, well, they're made action free.
Action free. Workers now action free.
There you go.
But we have a couple of move outs on the map.
Ooh.
Taking some Zilong energy. 50 there for Zenster.
50 power, not bad. He's moving over to the left side. I think Myungshik and Hurricane are probably going to move away from Void Rays. That seemed pretty cool, but Hydra Marine seems like a pretty darn good composition to counter that, so probably won't see that. And there is that tower being grabbed by that tower, and it could shut down that expansion if left to its own devices.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And one of the other things too is that units aren't really as massable in this game.
Okay.
Like, so in that situation with the Void Rays earlier, the Void Rays are great support, but you have to have an army behind them. You can't just make a bunch of Void Rays and A move across the map. It's not an option.
Shadow Cannon, as we saw, is really strong, but if it's only the Shadow Cannon you have to avoid, then not nearly as big of a deal. But both teams kind of fighting for the middle. This is one of those maps that Jack Attack was talking about earlier, where the Xel'Naga energy kind of resource nodes will spawn on the side, so it's very interesting because that can get you out of position to go after that. And you can see here, these are middle ones, and there are those probes fighting, so maybe they know something we don't.
Yeah, Myungshik and Hurricane using this sort of probe strategy. Ooh, I don't know about this fight though. With the kiting and the advantage of that Marine Ball, the coordination not 100% on for our Korean team. That's that power. Immortality power for those Zealots, but used a little bit frivolously. It's going to be on cooldown, so you won't be able to use it for a little while.
And he even just pulled back his force while there, so you can see a little bit of, he's going to probably want to change up that tactic. But good synergy here from Team Sweden. They're going to jump on those towers, and now, important to note, killing unfinished nodes like that doesn't get you any power, actually, so you have to let them finish, I guess.
Only killing the Xel'Naga will give you energy. Killing your opponent's towers won't give you energy.
So he freed up the nodes, but then denied him building on top of them, I guess.
Right, which is why it's important to get out on the map early to collect the neutral buildings, because once they're down, you can't collect that energy anymore.
So it looks to be a good win for our Swedes. Certainly they're in a great position, but it's important to note they have not slowed down the expansions, and our Koreans have been greedy. Well, more Teal Hurricane here. He's got 4 going on 5 bases. His teammate Myungshik is a little bit more army-centric and is just on the 3 bases, but if they're allowed to get away with this, that could be one of the ways to get back into it.
Yeah, and one of the things we like to mess around with when we're playtesting is sort of 1 base, 3 base strategies, where one player will go for a very army-heavy, tech-heavy, but low base situation that'll give space for the other player to be really greedy. So it's cool to see this kind of a combination happen on the professional level.
One of the bases gets spotted here, but Hurricane is moving on the right side to maybe do a little bit of base 9 himself, but he's going right into the production. Using one of his powers here to speed them up a little bit might give him some more efficacy, but again, here comes Zerg.
Yeah. They're kind of just waffling around there, a little bit non-committal.
It's a lot of units to lose, I guess, without doing much, though.
Yeah. It is only minerals, which is pretty helpful.
That's something.
It's but yeah, it's
I mean, just running around. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so this is a design concept that we prioritize a lot. It's called retreatability. The differences in speed between the units is a lot lower than in other RTS games. So that allows these more aggressive situations to happen.
More things move at the same speed, I guess.
You can be aggressive at lower risk, which helps to just promote a more active, aggressive game, which we're trying to foster.
He did get out of there at relative decent speed. What are these units? We haven't seen that before.
Those are Centurions, so that's Zeratul version of the Zealot.
Okay.
Instead of a charge, they have an ambush cloak, where if they stay still for a certain amount of time, they become cloaked.
Oh, cool.
And
there's
then
those Lancers.
They can lance out. They can attack out, the Lancers coming in.
Loving the Lancer shows up here. Now remember, it's got range 4, it slows down and has somewhat of a cloak ability, but it's more of like a siege or harder to deal with kind of tactic.
Yeah, it's a very soft siege mechanic, and it's kind of nice in that way. Nice harass over here. Finally, doing some scouting, trimming the outer bases. It's a very, very important thing to keep tabs on. Not letting your opponents get too greedy. And I think actually they've denied the outer bases too slowly at this point. That was a spell. That was a buff. He's going for the High Templar, and he gets incredible hits off.
The soft underbelly, and here comes the big force. Without the Templar and no AoE, I mean, there's a light AoE on the Lancers, but
Right.
they're getting abducted. They're getting jumped on in Swedes.
Oh, that was a critical move, using that Zelnaga energy to get in and
the
doing
background.
harass at the same time.
That's how you do
Our
it.
Swedish team may be going up 2-0 here against our Korean team, Myungchik and Hurricane.
Yep, they're going to jump right on top of the Lancers. Have stopped retreating. They're getting mowed over. Right side, those expansions, the ability to come back in this game being greatly diminished if you're not able to, hold on to bases and lose all the fights as well.
Yep, he does manage to get some disruptors out and get a couple of shots off, but in the end, he's losing all of his production, which is out here in the open. And there's a little bit of trade-off there. You get that faster, but that is it. GG.
Well done.
We're up to 2-0 for the Swedish team.
And they are winning in convincing fashion. Like we know that the Protoss team of these Koreans are very good. They did put up somewhat of a fight in a couple of the games to Innovation and Classic, but here I feel like we can see some of the light bulbs turning on, some of the ideas kind of clicking for the Swedish team here. They're looking really good.
Yep. And this is, a reminder, this is the decider match. Whoever wins this best of 5 will move on into the round of 8. Whoever loses will be gone, and that will be it for the broadcast for today. Tomorrow we will be broadcasting the
Same time, I guess.
Yes, the
We'll
same
start
time.
at the same time.
And we'll be broadcasting the round of 8 and the round of 4, and of course the finals in that order.
We're going to conclude with an interview in just a little bit. We'll be right back.
And we are back. This is a 2-0 lead for our Swedish team. We're spawning on Laurasia, which is a map that we haven't seen yet. This is generally a pretty aggressive map. The rush distances are a little bit shorter, and there are a lot of attack paths, a lot of open areas to aggress in, especially on the naturals. One particular natural, the one that is on the right side for the top base, the one that's on the left side for the bottom base. This base we're seeing right here has a two big open chokes to get into. If there's going to be some early aggression, this is definitely the map to do it on. But as we've been seeing pretty consistently, the players are very comfortable trying to take it to the mid game and the late game and win on the backs of their mechanics.
It's a gorgeous map. I'm liking just looking at it. Very cool. So we'll have to see how it pans out that way. But this is the decider match, guys. The Swedes are up 2-0 over the Koreans here. We are not able to show you the names for them just yet. Maybe we'll have that kind of stuff available in the future. But for right now, for the observer purposes, you just can't pull up their names. And then after this, we will be having an interview with Dylan. I'll be asking him some questions, and if you guys in chat have any other questions as well, maybe we can fish some of those out for him as well.
Definitely. As we see some beginnings of a wall potentially, things are starting to pick up for our double Protoss team. They are at a big disadvantage. They're going to have to switch things up pretty significantly if they want to beat the Swedes.
Yeah, and it seems, I mean, in the first two games it's been Marine, Hydra, defend, harass. That's just been what's happened. So I like what you said. The Koreans are going to have to switch it up to harass in both the first two games. A little bit more so in the second game. It was somewhat effective in the second game, but in the first game it was almost non-existent. The scout was a weird experiment on the fly. It just didn't really work out. And this time around, a roach horn. We haven't seen any units from that.
Okay, yeah, so this is Kerrigan. So this is the other Zerg faction. We're going to see a lot of new units here. Instead of Zerglings, we have Tremors. Instead of Hydralisks, we have Roaches, which shoot up. Important distinction. And they actually have a decent amount of range as well. Each race has a generalist class that shoots up and down, has range, does its basic thing. You have Stalkers, Dragoons, Roaches, Hydras, Marines, and Commandos.
Okay. Very cool.
So we'll have to see as things pan out. This is one of our more different races. There's a lot of different units and stuff that we've been messing with, experimenting on, so I'm excited to see what our professionals are going to do.
We did see some cool micro there on that Xel'Naga tower too, by using the scout unit to take its maximum damage and then pull it back even to preserve it. It is free, so you could actually just let it die, but that was really cool to grab that early tower there. And we're also going to see Twilight Council here. What is that upgrade that we see queued up there?
So that is Centurion, that's armor. So you'll get 10 hit points on the Zealot and charge.
Oh, wow.
So also a really, really fast 5th base from our red team.
Yep, going up to 5 bases really quickly on this otherwise very aggressive map, which could be interesting. We've seen out of Xanster and sort of, they do like to get to kind of mid-map and find out what's going on and then be almost like shark-like aggressive out there.
Well, and I think too, learning the maps is probably a lower priority for these players as they're just getting to the game, 10, 20, 100 hours maybe in that kind of a range. So one of the last things you're going to learn is how the game plays out differently in the maps. You're generally going to be more focused on unit composition, things like that. So it's interesting to see that happen. We do have the Roaches and Marines force moving out. This is quite significant, especially if they scout that base over to the left bottom
they're
side.
Go for it. And they're grabbing a lot of the Xel'Naga energy here as well. There's almost no army out for our Protoss team, so it's... And that's not even going to finish. This base is dead. They're in trouble.
Yep. They will be able to cancel it and get that money back. You can cancel these structures as well and get some of your Xel'Naga back. We see that, 13 Xel'Naga energy back. And that is a Bile Host. So the Bile Host is a long-range siege unit. It doesn't really work quite like the Swarm Host. It has an attack. It doesn't spew out a unit.
Oh, okay.
But it is a very long-range siege unit for the Zerg and is particularly more effective against air than it is against ground, but it has a pretty strong attack.
Goes down pretty quick too when focused on, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, just a lone Bile Host isn't going to get you much.
And Protoss is going to push out there again. Those probes are part of the composition, a Worker Rebellion. And what is that with the Lancers there? Or Immortals, maybe? You see that? Yeah, the Redskin guy there.
Oh, that's a Havoc. So there are actually two versions of Walkers for each Protoss race. There's Havocs and Venerators, and they're the dedicated anti-air unit. The Havoc does splash damage from long range against air, And that's part of this sort of unit classification design philosophy where if someone gets a really big air superiority, we want to be able to give players the tools to attack that from the ground.
Oh, okay.
So that way the air superior doesn't snowball too hard and the game just ends because, oh, I got to air first and I got a bigger air army and you're dead.
Makes sense. This War Prism was spotted. The zealots that are popping out of there having a little bit of a tough time. In the Zelnogga Tower, as you can see, that's that big white skull now does respawn in the middle of the map. To the spoils go the aggressor here.
Yeah, map control, a very powerful and important part of the game.
And they're expanding like a wildfire behind this too.
Oh,
really
yeah.
cementing their advantage, I would say.
Yeah, when you're ahead, get more ahead and all that. They've got the army advantage. They thwarted all the attacks, and they've made that really strong attack of themselves, taking advantage of that really early aggressive, greedy base from the Korean team, and
whipping
now,
on the power there again. He like snap calls does the invulnerability, but if you're not in the midst of a huge fight, that seems like such a waste.
Yeah, or if you can you got him against a corner, you can guarantee it's going to work. And just smart play from the Swedish players by pulling back there and saying this is a temporary thing. It's not something you fight into. They're respecting the spell, which is an important thing to do. They are powerful. They are game changers. They do make a significant difference in the fight.
Good harass for the War Prism, doing what they can, but again, we see these concepts in StarCraft as well. If you're just harassing like this, and it's not scoring like real big decisive advantages, then what is it really doing for you? If it's winning position, if you're able to expand behind this, or if it makes them micro the battle a lot worse, and that's where I can see it being really cool. But here, not much.
Well, especially because all their attention is going to be, if there's no fight going on, all their attention is going to be devoted to this. They don't have to be worried too much about spending their attention on macro. So there's definitely no way, and that is a Devour. Same basic concept. It's got a little splash damage. It's got an armor debuff from Brood War.
That is a flying turd, actually. That is what that is. A reimagination. And then that War Prism's going to die, and that's going to be if you look at the minimap, that's pretty much the last of the harass.
Yeah, this has been a very powerful showing from our Swedish team. Not able to take it to classic and innovation, but showing their strength here, up 2-0 and in a dominating lead in the deciding match, potentially.
So we're going to have to see our Koreans dig deep here. They do have this powerful army of those Lancers, which we know to be very good, but I'm finding, and I like what you said, spamability in this game. I mean, there's some line units like Marines and Hydras that are certainly really good in large numbers, but a lot of synergistic qualities need to be important. We saw the Viper used to abduct the key units and make kind of the danger of the other team a lot less. But if you just make pure Lancers, I see it getting ran over by Bio again.
Yep. Pretty much pure anything isn't going to work. If that is true, we figure out a way to rectify the situation because it's just not an element that we want to have in the game.
Yeah.
So we've been working really hard to try to eliminate those factors and encourage more diverse army compositions and more sort of shifting army compositions as well.
And the attack's going to move up into the main, buying some time and space. They are expanding behind this, so you can see finally that harass starting to yield a little bit of results. It isn't doing damage in the base, but it's winning space and it's buying time. So that's exactly what the Koreans need right now, so they can catch up an army. But
a couple of big storms. It's going to be tricky. So I did say this is an aggressive map in the early game, but as we're starting to see, as you get towards the mid to late game, it's a pretty clear line of half map versus half map. You have to go through a choke point to get to your opponent's side of the map, and oftentimes you have to go up a ramp. So as the game goes on, we're going to start to see that situation potentially where if they can just hold the high ground, use their defender's advantage as much as possible, the Swedish team is going to mine out first. And that's going to start happening around 16 minutes. So if they can survive that long, that's really their key opportunity to make a comeback.
Okay, well, Orange over here is going to trigger the response from the Zerg, and it's going to try to make his way out of here, probably.
That is a lot of storms.
Yeah, some good storms. This has one space on the right side as well for that Protoss to make that high ground like you talked about. And we're seeing disruptors here as well.
Yep, the Disruptor. Very similar to StarCraft, StarCraft 2, a couple of different changes. If you kill the Disruptor, the shot will still go off.
No friendly fire in this game, by the way.
No friendly fire at all, yeah. It's something that is really cool in a 1 versus 1 RTS. You can play with the elements, but in a 2 versus 2, it destroys the experience and the fun for a lot of. Oh, nice disruptor hits going on all over the place, and the immortality coming down on them as well to ensure the life of those high priority targets. And this is a really important battle that the Korean team has just won.
Won in a big way, and here comes the backup, his teammates showing up. There's those Templar, good against the Zerg units in particular, and they might have found a solution. They're snowballing here a little bit, getting that right side base dislodged, winning the fight there on the high ground. But keep in mind, this game is very grindery. You could lose your army, and you're not necessarily out of it just yet, but if they can get on top of the production or get another base or two, it should be maybe a killing blow.
Yeah, and we see the Guardian coming in, very similar to Brood War. It's got that long range sort of pokey damage, but it also has a spell which does big AoE, so we'll have to watch out to see if that lands, and that is going to really help them defend that base using the terrain, using that high ground advantage, having those air units, and keeping them microing. And that's really a big part of the capital ship of, capital ship design for us, is that it's not an A-movie unit, the Guardian. You really have to protect it. He's actually overstanding a little bit. It could be capitalized upon, but I think the Korean team just happy with what they've won so far, which is a lot of space. They've won that match convincingly, and I say they've come back into even or just slightly behind at this point.
Yeah, but good harass from the Swedish team, and again, that's been the theme. Like, you're getting attacked, you're falling behind, you better be harassing. That's going to be one of your ways to get back into this game. And this Guardians, like you talked about, it's really actually it's very different to see them because you're used to them being so slow, very much so a siege unit, very much so an attack move unit, all the things you talked about you guys are working against. Instead, it's more of an air sniper picking off key units and just shoving him away. And that's one space. We all of a sudden have the Zerg attacking that left side base. The harass is all up and down on the right side. And the Koreans, who were looking really good a minute ago, are struggling again.
Yep. And that's a big part of the economic advantage. Sure, they were down for a moment, but it's really easy to rebuild your army quickly if you had the bank. The Swedish team has had the bank, has had the economy lead for quite some time, so they were able to come back. It's not over yet, but a couple more good fights from the Korean team could put them at an advantage here. They're going to have to do something about those Guardians.
I was just going to say, well, it's like a two-part question. It's the Guardians they have to answer for, and then the Swedes need an answer for the Disruptors. I mean, I think the Guardians are that answer, but this Bioforce, we saw it get absolutely demolished by those Disruptors. It was pretty one-sided that way.
Yeah, and the Guardians and Disruptors have a very similar range, so trying to snipe them while overextended is a very tricky balance and has a lot to do with terrain. Okay. If the team with the Disruptors gets out of position, too close to a ledge, too close to some airspace, something like that, the Guardians will be able to safely pick them off. But if they pay attention to their positioning and they're cognizant of the terrain, they should be able to stay safe.
Look at that army. A lot of Havocs, like you talked about, the dedicated A units, backed up by the Immortals and the Disruptors showing up over here. And Red is going to get, well, he's getting backed up by Orange, but he is in the middle of the map definitively. Here comes Teal on the left side. You can see that, and Blue on the right. Could be a bit of a sandwich between the two armies. We'll have to see positioning play a part here. This is all scary.
Oh, yeah, this army, though. I feel like the Swedish team has been locked up in their unit composition for a little bit too long. And we see some spells going down, some inspires, some attack speed going there for the Guardians, allow them to dodge a little bit better. But those Havocs ripping apart the Guardians, that long-range splash damage is incredible. Seeing the Immortality Protocol come down on those Puros units, keeping them alive. Another really good fight, and I think we're seeing the continuation here of the comeback, but a lot of back and forth. Like you said, they were behind a little while ago. They seem to be coming back now. As long as they don't overextend, they should be able to push their advantage.
Such a powerful army. You can see they've leveraged anti-air by a lot. There's a lot of Havocs there, but the ground's covered as well with the Disruptors, Zealots, and Immortals. So what do we do? Well, on the right side, we're having the Swedes say, okay, well, what would Innovation and Classic do? They would just counterattack and harass.
Yep, and especially with the Bioforce, it's very similar in that way. It functions in the same way. Ooh, I don't think they have enough for Storm, but they're going to get sandwiched here by Zealots, and that is delicious for the Protoss.
Yep, good decision to come back and deal with that. Meanwhile, the right side, or the left side, excuse me, the red Protoss army is going to fight over there. Seems to be clashing a little bit, but this army seems to be the one that I don't know that there's any answer from the Swedes for.
Yeah, not at the moment. And siege tanks are definitely going to help that quite a bit. Of course, not if they're rallied into the enemy army. But they really need some unit composition switch up here. They've been in bio for a little bit too long, and they're seeing that now. Myung-Shik and Hurricane, we're not going to have a 3-0 after all, ladies and gentlemen. It's turning into a series.
It's showing life, yes. That was a great army composition there, and it was nice too because the Swedes wanted to go to their army comp that steamrolled in games 1 and 2. They went Hydra and Marine, but the Disruptors, they're really slow, which I like. I like that theme in Vanguard where skill shots are not just, well, there's nothing you could have done about that. And you talked about counterplay being really important, but without dodging those disruptor shots, same effect as in StarCraft. If you just take one, your army's gone. It's not going to endure or tank a disruptor shot, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that the disruptor shot stays alive after the disruptor is killed really changes the dynamic of those fights, because running in and just having more damage is not enough. You have to split. You have to avoid. It is the primary form of counterplay, and it's one of those situations where, for me, I think it's really cool to always see more counterplay, and the idea that you have an option to snipe the disruptor is really cool. But this is one of those very specific situations where I think less counterplay options in this particular case turns out really well, and it creates a really nice dynamic.
Yeah, you still just got to micro out of that. And it feels like you said, with everything moving at about the same speed, you always have the ability to do that. And what I like about Vanguard is it's not like they consciously made the choice to be like, you know what, I'm going to just take that disruptor shot. He was probably controlling something else or being stressed to control something else while dealing with that situation, and that seems to be the tension point in this game. So
yeah,
been enjoying that.
Yeah, it is definitely a goal that we've had for a long time, the kind of gameplay we've been trying to produce for a long time, and it is incredibly satisfying to finally see it happen in the hands of professional players, like the players that I've been idolizing and watched play StarCraft 2 for the past 5-6 years. You know, playing this game that we've been working on. It's really a privilege, and it's just so excited for all this to be happening.
Very cool. It is 2-1 in favor of the Swedes. We're heading into game number 4 here. The map is going to be Naginata, which I have not seen as well either.
Naginata is a cool map. It's one of our mid-size type maps. One of the things that we tend to see a lot on Naginata is central control. This is probably the most important map for central control. It makes a huge difference. The Xel'Naga construct, which is that 125 energy beast that spawns, is in the very center. There's none on the outsides. And just the way that the map is laid out and the structure of it, once you have hold of that center, it's really, really difficult to dislodge. You have to take very big paths around, long distances to get to your opponent's base. But that's what I've seen at the semi-professional level, watching Theo play, he's a top 50 grandmaster, like things like that. It's gonna be interesting to see how this map plays out for the pros. Is that central control as an important element for them as well?
Okay. Well, we are just getting underway, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying yourselves. Make sure to keep asking questions to Dylan in the chat. You guys are watching, and then just a reminder, it's sunspeargames.com/live for the other streams as well. There's a Polish stream and Korean stream. They might go a little bit longer. We had a lot of 3-0s in this group, and we were trying to fix audio, so we didn't want to delay the players, so a lot of the games also weren't streamed. But they will be streaming, hopefully, everything tomorrow, and you'll get to see more of that. But here we go. We're in.
All right, so we've got our Paras team. We've got Myungshik. We've got our Swedish team going for the Terran Zerg, and like you were talking about before, they seemed really committed to this unit composition.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see a little bit of development here, or if they're going to go more into the strategy, tactics, base decision making to try and get that edge.
Yeah, that was going to be my big question here as well. And that's what's kind of cool about this tournament in its own little meta. It's just that the counterplay is really strong. We definitely saw a lot of air harass as being a central theme for the Protoss players. Especially with Innovation and Classic doing that amazingly well in particular, and then Innovation, of course, following up with like medevac drops and stuff like that throughout the game. But composition-wise, Marine Hydra, so powerful when not handled properly. We saw the Void Rays getting masked up, that didn't work, and we just saw it being so strong. But in that last game, all of a sudden, I'm like, well, Disruptors are the answer to that. And they look to be so dominant, and then they backed it up with the double Robo tech as well with Immortals, and then Havocs for the anti-air. That seems to be a very strong core army.
Yep, and that's one of those cool things. We start seeing these more diverse armies be more powerful, and as a game designer, you hope that the player will do that. You hope that will be the result. You say, okay, this will be used for this, but in the end, you don't know. And seeing this play out is a really nice confirmation of, okay, this is working. Let's continue to push in this direction.
You can see this, guys. A lot of us are brain trained to be watching a adept in this situation, think that massive damage is about to be done. Nope, just scouting around, being chased by the other free unit. A couple of times it makes its way to the mineral line. The workers are able to put the herding to it, excuse me. No proxies this time. Well, the Cybernetics cores, I guess, have to finish first, and then we'll see if they're going to go that route. This bat also has that kind of freebie base, which is interesting. Both players, well, it's orange in top right and teal in bottom left. It took that freebie. It's inside the main, so a lot harder to harass. But then it's the, is this the Protoss on the lower left-hand side? They have been greedy. Look at that. They're going up to 6 bases.
Oh my god. If that goes unscouted, that's going to be really,
I mean, the
really
Swedes are
powerful.
just barely pushing 4 right now.
Yep. It is a big risk, though. One of the things to note is the expansion time, the amount of time it takes to build a town hall structure is significantly longer in this game.
Okay.
It's a very big, significant decision, and that's part of our philosophy of moving decisions to be more significant and less often strategic decisions, so that way there's more time and attention spent to the execution of your strategy, and there's more weight to the decision that you make.
Well, interesting here. You talked about if this was going to get scouted. Here comes Orange pushing pretty deep into that base, just kiting against those early game zealots.
They didn't go to the left or the right, though.
They did not. So they saw the base that you can pretty much predict they have, but then you did not see the 2 bases that you would be very shocked to see they're trying to take.
Yep. And they're both accessible through rocks. They're very difficult to attack right now, but one of the most important things in this map, in addition to like controlling the center, part of the reason why it's so powerful is if you control the center, you can take your opponent's rocks down and leave yours up.
Okay.
And that opens up those attack paths into the 2 early bases we're seeing the blue team take.
And here comes some of that harass that'll also be harder to deal with when you're also worrying about these units sharking out here. Immortals immediately being made here, or actually Lancers. And that seems to be what they're going to return to. So we'll have to see that counterplay, because again, from the Swedish team here, they know if they see those Lancers, it's not like it's just going to be those 2. It's going to be 40 of them, and then also Havocs and then Disruptors.
Yep. Low anti-air for the time being, but we'll see the Havoc response come in pretty quickly. A couple of Banshees. Something that we see in the hands of low-level players do stupid amounts of damage and kill everything. But as we can see here, as we get into these higher level games, the players are much better at mitigating damage, pushing out the harass, and it's very nice to see.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like they 4-shot workers or something like that, and the Dragoons doing what they can to kind of work against them. Good range, good damage. One of the Banshees almost dead. But freeing up some space. We also have a battle in the middle of the map, which is what's most impressive about this, is that Zanster is microing those Banshees while also controlling his bio in the middle of the map. Very impressive play. And it's the Protoss that's going to be a little bit aggressive. They have to be careful, I find, though, because their army, much like in StarCraft 2, I'm not seeing low-count Protoss units do very well, but when they get to that kind of synergistic death ball of sorts, then they have tremendous power.
Yeah, units complementing each other, a very important aspect. Man, these Banshees are just getting so much done. And like you were saying before, this is allowing the Swedish team to take the center of the map, and it's going to allow them to start opening up those attack paths through the destructible rocks, those vulnerable bases towards the outside.
There's a Corsair, though. Corsair should begin to shut this down. Cannon also kind of warping into the middle of the mineral line. But like you said, Jack Attack, so much damage from this. And I think that's one of the risks of taking those early expansions is not only are you potentially behind an army, but your ability to deal with harass is, of course, diminished.
Yep. It's much more difficult to tech up. Something to note that has not shown up yet, but you may like, there's a splash damage upgrade for all of your defensive structures.
Oh, well.
And that is basically to prevent this snowballing giant mutaball, giant banshee ball, whatever, to allow static defense to have that, okay, it's good early game, but it's not a wasted investment. You can transition it into the later game and, you know, force your opponent to commit harder.
Okay. So both teams rather, kind of farming off of that. A little bit of a Zergling attack coming in here. That's naked mineral line. They could do more. And the Banshees again finding purchase, just going to park at that mineral line. And it's just that multitasking we're talking about. Like it's not like Myung-Shik and Hurricane are looking at that and be like, you know what, it's fine. Go ahead and attack my mineral line. It's more that there's just so much going on.
Yeah, and we're seeing another base taken in the top left. A sneaky way to expand here. You would expect the bottom center base to be the next base taken. And some gateway explosion.
Yeah, they're not slowing down that way. Like they're getting harassed. They are a little bit worried about army, but they're almost responding by saying, "Well, let's just expand again." But these rocks you were talking about, they're being worked on here.
Yep. Siege tank count is not too high at the moment. He's favoring vultures and Goliaths at this point. Vultures we haven't seen yet. Very similar to Brood War, except they don't have a limited amount of mines. They can have one mine out at a time.
Okay. And
it's on a cooldown, and it's timed life, so it doesn't stay there forever. But really big attack, and this is what we were talking about before. You control that middle, you open up those attack paths, and this base is not long for this world.
They do get that base, pulling in some Lancers as well, doing some damage to the army. One of the Lancers did escape there, though. Nice move there.
I really love the pullback here. I think we've seen a lot of players overcommit after they get a little bit of lead, not used to that defender's advantage, but sort of a little bit of development, being a little bit less committal, taking the base, backing off, saying, all right, we got an advantage, let's go get another one, let's try to secure this lead.
Really good teamwork too. They are sticking together. There's definitely advantage to like splitting up and doing more around the map, but there's also some strength in just being like, hey, our whole army is in one spot. Good luck dealing with that.
Yep. It's a fun part of the dynamic. That sort of decision making comes in when you get into a 2v2, because one of the fastest ways you can lose a game of Vanguard is for one army to get caught out and just get demolished by two.
Almost. Well, just gotta be dangerous, careful. That is a panda bear with a spear. I'm seeing walking around the map.
Yeah, that is a Moopy. They do have 11 armor and do 1 damage. So watch out.
It's walking around?
Yeah, they don't actually fight you.
You guys got Ewoks in your game. That's
they've
awesome.
got those stats, yeah.
This harass is going to walk into a tower. That's what I was waiting for, is the Vipers to decide that this is over. And the Hydra composition again coming out.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the importance of where the fortifications are on the map. And you pretty much have them next to all of your bases, but we try to set them up in a way that if you're not paying attention to your harass, the tower will pull your aggro. But if you're paying attention to it, you can shave off a couple of mineral patches, maybe not the whole thing. Maybe you sit with range units behind. So it is sort of forcing that control-oriented play.
Okay.
And we do have a little bit of a 2 versus 1 here.
Ooh, Science Vessels for the first time.
Oh, and he burned his immortality. That is not just energy, that's energy and a cooldown. So he will not have access to that for a little while.
A lot of Widow Mines being planted here as well. Let's see how this functions. Or Spider Mines, I guess, not Widow Mines.
Yep, yeah, we have both in the game, so it's a little bit tricky to do the switching back and forth. But Science Vessels coming in. They do have their 2 signature spells, EMP and Irradiate. They work virtually identically to the way they do in Brood War.
There's the Disruptive General move. That was a key element that was missing in the last game.
Definitely. The Vipers are getting so much done for our Swedish team here. And it's cool to see him moving into a mech composition instead of Bile that we've been seeing mostly.
And they are funneling into this. They're going to go for the high ground here. This base is not yet finished. It can be canceled, as Jack Attack pointed out earlier. And that is exactly what will happen. The swarmy force on the right side. Good harass in the background, but not paying attention like you talked about. Now grabbing it, which is good. But just sieging from here, I guess. You could probably move those tanks a little bit closer. But, oh, there's the Protoss.
Yep. You got to be very careful about overextending, especially with those siege tanks.
Oh, the Balians get the boost of speed. They're going for it.
And they don't reach the High Templar. They do manage to take out quite a few Zealots, but they do not reach the High Templar, which I'm sure was their intended target. Yeah. All those juicy energy bars.
They want it for sure.
Oh, here we go. And we see the workers fighting back, but a little bit more control on that harassment, and all of a sudden we have an empty mineral line.
It looks like Protoss wants to return the favor, not needing to siege as much with these bulky Protoss units just murdering through the rocks, getting on top of that base. And what are the Swedes going to do? Sieging is good, but if you're not pushing forward or off of that, then you're just kind of sitting there. But I love the abduct play. Here we go. We're going to start being searchful about it.
Yep, this ramp very critical. He does speed those up. He's trying to get them over, and he gets so many High Templar with that move out. And just a little bit of base trading back and forth, not in the end of the game base trade, but just individual bases being traded back and forth. Man, this is a very close game. This might be our closest game yet.
Yeah, this is the one that I think people would be hoping for. The Immortals and Lancers kind of swinging over here, trying to get into position, just Lancers actually, and it looks like they will be able to save that Nexus. Disruptor shot's mostly going to whiff there and might get some tanks. But got to be careful. That overextending we keep talking about, going out past this choke point would be death. Here comes the abducts again.
And it's just, our Swedish team has done such a good job at controlling the center of the map, using these attack paths. You can see that all the rocks that they want to have down are down, and all the rocks they want to have up are up. It makes a really big difference when you can have that, man, like single Dragoon harass. He's on 6 kills now. Loving it.
Does get the response. And, wow, look at the middle of the map. There might be a huge storm of altercations in the middle here. Left side base trying to be taken, but that tower is still being owned by the Protoss players, and we're going to have that engagement. There's the invulnerability going down as well. Tanks, Vipers pulling back, but they don't really have anything to abduct to any army. They were pulled back by all this harass. You can see red units at the top end of the map trying to clean up that harass that we were talking about just a moment ago. A little good concave there, though, so the Swedes will be able to deflect this a little bit. Disruptive shots coming forward, but not being controlled, so not really going for the meaty underbelly of this army.
Yeah, and really nice move. They incorporated just 2 Havocs into the army, and that's enough to push away the science vessels to deal with those abducts.
But the Immortals, Lancers unsupported are in a lot of trouble here. Disruptive shot goes out, good connection, but not finding amazing hits. If he is able to get under that high ground, that's all the production, but of course Protoss is going to push back and fight for life there, and they do that. Yep. Defensive advantage very strong here.
Yeah, and part of having the production up that early, it is a risk, but it does mean when you respawn your whole army, which happens very quickly, it's right at the ramp.
Again, that Dragoon harass just kind of doing what it can, but we've got a huge meat grinder. There's tanks up on that high ground. They gotta turn back from that. I can't imagine they have what it takes to get up there. There's just not enough zealots, but they're gonna try to fight it out anyways, and they are getting a little bit on top of the tanks with that Warp Prism.
I don't think they have enough splash for these Zerglings.
Yeah. Zerglings holding on, Hydras, and you can just see everything's about this fight right here. They do actually end up pushing through that. They get on top of the tanks. Going for the high ground, have to be careful about overextending. They're losing out on their tanky zealot units to try and free up space for these range guys.
Yep, and this is just incredibly close. They're holding on as much as they can. Yeah, finally we have a strong, properly timed immortal moment. It is a good thing to use in vulnerability. And moving directly on here, going to be able to take the natural expansion out probably. But as you can see, the units just streaming in from both sides. They're fighting for their lives here.
Yeah, great fight. It's actually really interesting because throughout the map, like you pointed out, there's other bases that are under attack throughout all of this. But it is too much sort of in Zanster do fall, which means we'll be going to a game 5. And that was a great game. It was really fun.
That was my favorite game so far. Aside from just seeing Classic and Innovation destroy people, that was my favorite game so far.
It was certainly the most competitive.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like the Swedes played really well, but then the Koreans adapted and played better, I would say. They were getting siege, they were losing that, but instead of fighting into the teeth of that siege, they were just like, okay, well, we're just going to capitalize off our overexpanding and attack your other bases, which are more important to you than that one for us, which then meant the siege units had to pull back and fight in the middle of the map where they're not nearly as effective. Vipers require, I think they're really powerful, but they require a lot of attention. If you're not abducting into an army, they're not doing anything for the most part, it felt like.
Yeah, and that's I think one of the important things. Like, Vipers don't really do too much damage. They actually have a mine ability where they drop a cloaked mine that does percentage damage. We don't see that too much right now. It's kind of a more advanced type of thing. And it's interesting too because we get to watch how the players gravitate to different tools. There are all kinds of different units and abilities that we haven't seen yet. Which ones are they going to go to? And the question is always, well, are they not using it because it hasn't worked for them a couple of times, or is it a strategy to be discovered? And I think that's one of the exciting things about Vanguard, especially with the 2 versus 2 element. There's so many new things, new strategies to be discovered, and especially in this early development. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah. Having a good time. Hopefully you guys are as well. We're heading into what is definitively our last game of the day.
Yep.
And then after that, like I said earlier, we're going to interview Dylan, who is... I'm surrounded by people that worked on this game, so I don't want to give him too much credit.
Dylan's our creative lead.
Creative lead.
Yep.
Okay.
He's the one who's got the story and the world. Go to sunspiritgames.com/world. That's of his vision. All the art and the lore and the story behind how the game is going to play out in Immortal, which will be the standalone product, is his vision. And so that's what his forte is, but we all wear many hats at Sunspirit. We're all involved in pretty much all the different processes, the balance, the design. We talk everything out. There's a lot of my favorite part about being on this team is absolutely just like the communication. It's really great. It's really fun to be able to work in a team where no one's too committed in an egocentric sort of way to their ideas. It's just sort of like the idea has to stand on its own merit, and we debate it to death, and we try it, and we test it, and we continue on. It's a really fun process to be a part of.
Very cool. It's good to hear about. We're getting into the game now, guys.
Ooh, and the next map is going to be Manifold.
Another new map.
Another new map. There are 7
For
maps.
us, as
For us.
viewers.
And Manifold is interesting because it is really, really hard to take a third base.
You know what? I'm going to cut in a little bit. As I realize we're playing these new maps, people can, if they're enjoying this, where can they play?
It's on the arcade. Just go into the arcade, type in Vanguard.
Vanguard. Okay.
And all of the maps have a very, very similar thumbnailing. You'll notice it right away. It's very recognizable. And those are the official maps. All the maps are always updated because they all rely on the same dependency. So,
well, what about like a community place? Is there other people that are finding games for Vanguard and stuff like that? Because if I just make a Vanguard game, maybe someone joins, but maybe they don't. Where would I find people to play?
Yeah, so that would be our Discord server, which I'm sure we have a couple of people hanging out in the chat. They'll link that to you. We hang out in the Discord server pretty much all the time. We also have official playtests on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time.
So where? In a channel or something?
Yeah, so Vanguard SE2 is the channel in-game, and mostly we communicate in the Discord server.
So find join the Discord, or go to the NA server or EU that channel?
We play in both. Usually for the official playtest, we'll do the first 4 hours in EU, the second 4 hours in NA.
Okay.
Because earlier on, more European players, and then as the Americans get out of work, we transfer over.
So you can definitely hop in there, guys, and start playing the game if you want to, give it a feel. I know that you guys are open to a lot of feedback as well.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot from the pro gamers, I guess.
Absolutely, we're in communication with the professional gamers all the time, talking about their needs, their desires. But it's also really important for us to talk about the needs and the desires of the new player. So if you're new, don't think, oh, this is a new game. I'm not really good at RTS. I tried StarCraft, but it was too hard for me. I tried Brood War, but it was too hard for me. Come play our game and let us know. Let us know your emotional experience. Was it fun? Was it too easy? What was intuitive to you? What wasn't? Because those kind of things are really, really important to us. We want to preserve the positive emotional experience of the new player to help have a nice, healthy player base that grows and expands, and then in turn supports the esports scene and sort of has that cyclical nature.
Very, very cool. So another different flavor of a map here. Why don't you walk me through a little bit what we can kind of expect with this?
So we're going to see these first 4 bases for each team get taken pretty easily. Only 3 bases for now. I think that was because he was getting denied.
Look at the Swedish team's base. Is that a misplaced town hall structure, or doesn't that look far off?
Yeah, that does look very far off. As a matter of fact, I think it is. It's potentially he's playing Terran, right? I think there was there was some harass going on, and he couldn't place it in an optimal spot.
Okay. Crisis averted. I was wondering if something weird was happening over there, but it's not.
It turns out if you put the town halls exactly 10 paces away from the minerals, you get a bonus of 2.5 Zelnaga energy. Not true. It's not true at all.
He's just joking. But like you said, 4 bases pretty quickly getting snapped up here.
But if you look at the third base options, you've got the one in the front, which is very open, and then the 2 on the very far ends, which is really difficult to defend just because of the pathing distance. So we see a lot of 2-base play, a lot of 2-base aggression, and very, very much delayed thirds. So we get a little bit more of the low-tech early game fights for a little bit longer on this map.
Okay. And we'll have to see too, because we're at like a confluence of ideas here. We've seen the Koreans return to this concept of the kind of immortal heavy, well, not immortal, the Lancer, Templar, Protoss, Deathball heavy style. We saw a different iteration of a response from the Swedes in that last game, talking about the siege stuff, more Viper play to pick out those disruptors, which were giving them such fits the game before that. Where do they go from here now? We haven't seen Broodlords. Is that in this composition, or are they still playing Kerrigan?
Nope. So this is, you can tell by the larva. The larva are really weird for Kerrigan, and they're normal, what you're used to for the Overmind.
So we could see Broodlords, I guess.
So yes, we definitely could see Broodlords, and I think that Corruptor Broodlord, with the Mutalisk maybe for some harassment, is one of the stronger late game compositions. It's really hard to get to. as it ought to be. But protecting those broodlords, keeping them alive, having a good ground base to mix together are all really important elements. So we could certainly see some, but it's difficult to tell if this is going to end quickly, because if one team gets map control, it's really easy to deny the third base over and over and over again. And it looks like we have our first brave third base taker.
So you have to come out of your shell a little bit to grab that third base, I guess.
Yep. And that's kind of the battle that's going on right now. It's sort of the battle for space on the map.
And you can see the two different philosophies. The red Zerg player is going to take the deep right peripheral base, and the Protoss brothers are going to take the more central, like, here I am base.
Yep. It'll kind of, I think, have a centralizing effect in their army. It'll be really important to keep their army over there in position. And the interesting thing is,
Lancers,
unbeknownst to them, they've expanded toward each other with their fifth bases. Their fifth bases are incredibly close to each other. So we could see a really centralized game here, a lot of focus on that particular battle, with, of course, any sort of harassment going on to be the icing on the cake for whichever team can multitask better.
Okay. More of that central focus coming out from Team Sweden over here, trying to be, but they're actually being kind of like goaded away from where this expansion actually went down. The newest expansion that we can see, the number 3 specifically for the Teal Protoss, is the one that they're vaguely aware of, but they're so far not scouting or seeing that the actual one that's being populated right now is the middle one.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the later stages of development, just having constant scouting all the time, realizing that you've got this free scouting unit. We see a lot of our more seasoned playtesters just make it a habit of just suiciding that unit all the time. Just as soon as a new one comes out, you send it out, just in constant motion. In the same way, like, these players are almost constantly harassing. The scouting is another one of those elements that you can use that additional APM to gain that edge and information.
Yeah, but still an RTS, still a very important concept. But both teams are trying to get up to that 6th base, and they're actually, at the end of the day, taking, well, I mean, there's only so many options, but they're taking similar bases. But they're more focused on the left side of the map. These Zerglings are going to get on top of that tower, like you said, before it finishes. It can be canceled, and should be canceled. Yup, so get some of that energy back. Production this time around, by the way, more central to the main bases. It's been in main bases, but we've seen it get pushed forward a little bit here in other maps as well.
Yeah.
Here, you can see the big clumps that their production is. It's towards the main.
And one of the more nuanced things is that because of the speed of production, you can put one production structure of each type forward and get almost as much advantage as having all of them there. So a little bit less risky play. It's very non-intuitive for StarCraft players, so we'll have to see if they pick up on that, if they try out with those strategies. But it's basically something like we see in the case of the proxies being particularly strong. Just one structure out on the map for a forward rally point, and not all of them.
And here are those Vipers. Interesting development here actually for our Teal Protoss. He's just now getting that Templar Archives at about 60%. He has been the Zealot Templar guy, which I think complements what Myungshik's been doing really, really well. This time kind of getting away from that. So are the Vipers going to be left to their own devices to continuously pick up and surgically remove those units? The Zerglings being so annoying, by the way. They've poked and prodded this a number of times.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about this game that's kind of one of my more favorite things is that if you go robo, you're not left without an anti-air solution.
Yeah.
In fact, you have a great anti-air solution. So just for the idea that we see all these Lancers on the field, at any point in time, if they're having struggles dealing with the air, they can swap to the Havoc, mix a couple in there if they just need a little bit, mix a little bit more, and that's one of the more things that happens quite a bit. Balancing out exactly how many of each thing in your composition is a very delicate balance, and it's a very important balance to strike, especially as the players improve and the unit compositions become more complex. Having too many Havocs, they're terrible at shooting at ground. Having too many Havocs, you'll get overrun on the ground if your opponent recognizes it.
You can have that standoff happening here. The high ground taken by the Protoss players. Good luck getting up there. Disruptor's coming out. Actually, we flicked away from it just as the fight started there a little bit. Okay, and we do get back into it. Disruption in the background. Of course, the Vipers can abduct that. Their energy, by the way, just recharges on their own. They don't consume something, right?
Yeah, there's no consume in the game. The Defilers don't have it, and neither do the Vipers.
Okay, Banelig's trying to waffle their way to the forward. There are some Zealots here now. There's the abduct. I'm going to go ahead and grab that Lancer, but it's able to waddle its way back. But here's the slow Disruptor shots, and again, it's almost jarring to watch it, but look how long the duration lasts. It's very much so kind of almost like a warding mechanism. Like you cannot stop it from happening, so you just have to get out of the way.
Yeah, it's very much a position. Whoa, look at that range, getting the full range and connection on that. A little bit of harass going down in the meantime. There's like we keep saying it over and over again, but there's so much going on in a game of Vanguard. And it's just incredible to watch at this high level. But don't be discouraged, you low-level players out there. Keep in mind this is a 2v2 game, so it's a lot less crazy as the individual than it is as the spectator.
7 bases versus 6 for right now. That right side, just annoyingly, is just unscouted. There's nothing there to defend it. This map specifically makes it hard, especially if you control the middle like we do see from the Swedish team here, to do anything about it. And it's actually the Koreans that are going to be the first ones to start striking damage into those undefended expansions.
And it's such a tiny commitment, right? You just like a couple of zealots, and you're just going to hang out there. The zealots are going to protect the immortal. In the meantime, they've been holding this high ground the entire time. It's so hard for them to push up, especially with the disruptors. Getting some good yoinks now, but just not enough damage to capitalize it. There we go. We're going to see one disruptor go down, but these shots are getting dangerously close. We're going to be very careful about that and just buying time, holding the hill, and securing those bases on the left side.
Able to kite back there. I would love to see them turn around. They just deflected that harass, but they still have not checked on those bases down there, where I feel like once they do, they could do something about it. The disruptor shots just keep coming out. You can't get into the high ground on this. It's almost like stop trying.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the other things. The space control units are a lot stronger here. We see the storm come down. That a lot of times you just go another way. Yeah. You just need to go in another direction. You can't brute force your way through it most of the time. You have to respect the power of those space control units.
The Swedes might be learning that hard lesson. So this is them running away, but on the right side they are starting to get on top of those bases. They're working on, I think that was the Zelnaga Tower, but they're heading towards that expansion right now. It seems to be mostly undefended. They are going to wreck that one, and by winning that one, there's also one south of that they can probably get on top of. And this army's starting to mass up, and like you talked about, high ground is huge, but maybe out in the open like this, they could actually win the fight.
It's definitely possible. The immortality coming down, all the spells dropping this moment. This is a critical fight. Nice dodges on the disruptor shot. Will he be able to? Ooh, not that one though. And he's going to lose another big hit to disruptors. They are doing so much damage, but the anti-air is almost gone.
It is almost gone, and all the disruptors will die behind this as well. They tried to warp in the defensive structure, but that too is at least being paid to attention a little bit. On the left side, we see that the main base, the high ground, is being attacked. That might have been a little bit of a hand cookie jar situation. They're going to retreat, and they're going
to retreat into the direction of another base to harass, though, up in the top. There's not too much to contest them as they defend this harass over on the right side of the map.
Getting pretty dire here, and like you said, with similar movement speed, it's really interesting to see how that plays out, because in normal situations that army would be ran down and killed for nothing, but in this they almost always are able to trade out something, it looks like.
Yeah, and you have that sort of second order effect where players can be more aggressive because they're taking less of the risk.
Okay, well, finally these Lancers will be found. They almost dropped that base by themselves. And all of a sudden we're seeing Team Sweden get into a really strong position. Thinning out the mechanical army of that Protoss army was a big deal. A lot of Lancers went down, a lot of disruptors, but still, there it is. A very formidable force, and you have to mind those disruptor shots.
Yep. And keep in mind, this is the final game of the final match of this group. Whoever wins moves on and gets a potential shot at their share, a bigger share of the $5,000 prize pool.
Great harass on the right side as well. This has been a constant. The Warp Prism, like you said, it was almost like a discovery in the last game. They're like, wow, if I just drop a Dragoon, a couple of Zealots behind a mineral line, that seems to be very, very effective. And they are winning positioning. So here comes that Protoss Death Ball on the left side. The green Protoss, the teal Protoss, excuse me, about to flank in. And the orange Bio Ball just having to respect this. You cannot do anything about the disruptor shots except for move out of the way.
Yeah, I really feel like they're getting tunnel visioned here. I think with the whole army, with the Vipers, they can fight the Spores. But if Xanster is left alone with just his Bio, he cannot deal with his unit composition. He needs more support.
The Vipers looking for those abducts, but they're not being given purchase. They dropped that mine in the backfield, actually. We did see that. Here come the disruptor shots. And they have to be careful because the high ground is right here, so I feel like they have to fight on some level. They're just looking for the right fight. But well, I say that, and Xander's like, nope, I'm actually going for your high ground. Maybe.
This is a really bold decision, and it looks like they're going to chase instead of going for the base trade.
That's got to be what he wants. Oh my
God.
Good split. Well, it was a good split.
Yep. A little bit longer duration.
This
than
did
we're
pull
used
the
to
whole
seeing.
army back though, and
It did,
they're
but
dead.
yeah, they're going to GG out here. Excellent job. Pure comeback there in a best of 5. They were down 0-2. Myungshik and Hurricane learning as they go, as the mini meta game of this particular tournament develops, and we get to get all this testing data and learn how to make the RTS a little bit better.
And that I think gave us. It's funny because we saw both. We saw the steamroll of Innovation Classic, and you can see what really high level play looks like. Because they played both these teams, and both those series were, pretty one-sided. But in this, 2 closer teams, but as you said, the Koreans kind of adapting and learning on the fly a little bit better. Because they were a deep 0-2, I would say. The first 2 games were more of a steamroll than even the 3-0s that we saw in favor of the Swedes, but the Koreans made those adaptations, changed it up, and it seemed like once Marine Hydra was answered for a little bit, they were thrown for a little bit of a loop, and that'll happen with a new game.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit tunnel vision on the Marine Hydra composition, but that wraps up the game cast. Don't worry, we're going to have an interview with the Sunspear creative lead, Dylan, in just a bit. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Those were some great games. We got more of that coming up next week.
Oh, tomorrow. Yeah. The finals tomorrow.
Oh, they want you to move over.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Come on over. This is Dylan. I'm Jeff. Dylan is the laser Jesus of this program. You are the creative lead? Is that what you call yourself?
Yeah, creative lead. I'm the part of the design that conceives of the new intellectual property, the new world, characters, and it's also my responsibility to blend those creative elements with the core gameplay that you would come to expect from a classic RTS like, say, Brood War.
Very cool. It feels like a very collective effort, though. Like, you guys collab and tell each other what you like and dislike quite a bit, don't you?
Oh my god, it's been a band of brothers story pretty much for the last 4 years. We started as community members, just back in the Wings of Liberty days, really trying to make our voices heard, make suggestions to improve the game or optimize the experience for players. Jack Attack, of course, made the core as part initially of the One Goal project. Our design lead, Travis, is the guy who implemented Starbow pathing, resurrected things like, Spider-Mine micro, Carrier micro before that was implemented in Legacy of the Void. So our roots go
Theo
back.
is another name that I think some StarCraft fans would know as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a Grandmaster Danish Protoss player, and he has been an invaluable asset to balancing the game. He's our balance lead, and he's an incredibly open-minded and passionate individual. And so, the moment we did a developer jam last year in Santa Barbara, we knew immediately that he was perfect for the team. We brought him in with open arms. So,
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the first places I kind of want to start with this, too, is that this has been a long time in the making, so... Because I think for a lot of people, they've heard about it, they've definitely, you guys have been, you put on a tournament, you've been talking to some pro players, but why? How did this even start? Like, where does this even come from? I think.
This came from a conversation I had actually with our UX lead, Coulter Hochstetler, 4.5 years ago. Just this came out. This conversation started during the Wings of Liberty, like late era between Broodlords and Archon toilets and the Mothership, and we saw the tremendous amount of potential in modern RTS that StarCraft could address was struggling to address in a few key areas. And so that started the conversation of how can we build on these advancements that SC2 made and these core foundations that Brood War made. How can we take that to the next level, and how can we bring that core experience to everyone? Because out of all the esports, there are no experience that is more watchable and intuitive than an RTS. You don't have to memorize a billion abilities and passives like Dota 2 or League of Legends, even though those are obviously great experiences. They're very popular. If you see a guy with a sword, he's a melee unit. If you see a guy with a gun, he's ranged. Then
there's guys with swords on their guns.
Yep. Oh man, that's that's some Warhammer stuff.
Now we're cooking with fire. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we got a question. We're going to take questions from the chat, by the way, as well. So feel free to ask. But what do we got?
Calazar24 asks, are there any single-player campaign elements planned for the future for Immortal?
Absolutely. So given the sheer volume of factions and heroes that we have planned for our follow-up standalone RTS Immortal, there's going to be a short tutorial campaign for each faction that will have custom aspects for each commander that will kind of highlight their strengths and weaknesses and challenges. And ideally, if everything goes well, we'd like to push through a larger, more ambitious campaign section. But what new players and more casual players can expect is, a co-op experience, kind of like Legacy of the Void offers, where
so even the single player will have multiplayer elements to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually one cool thing is our cosmetic items will provide co-op and single player only bonuses, so you can customize and further empower your army in various ways. Yeah. So, and they're strictly cosmetic and ring play, obviously.
Very cool. I think for a lot of people there's this interesting dynamic that's occurring. They're like, okay, so you're making a game, but I'm looking at StarCraft. So I mean, you guys have people that did Starbow, which was kind of a similar thing. There's a huge tradition of games coming from Warcraft. CSGO, which is having a major this weekend, came from Half-Life 2 or 1 or whatever the hell it was. I don't even know at this point in time. I know it's not 3. But talk about your guys' journey with working inside of a game to make your own. Why?
Well, so first of all, yeah, you're absolutely right. We come from similar stock to all these proud people and proud projects that came before us and really pushed esports and competitive gaming further in that path towards its true potential. And we understand that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We're not making any bold or condescending claims about our place in the world. We hope that years from now that the lessons that we're pushing forward will be adopted by future studios. It's all about the game for us. It's always been about the game for us. And whatever we can contribute to esports and whatever legacy we can leave behind for the next generation of designers and players is our absolute goal.
Well, talk to me about the future of the game too. This has been really fun. Everyone I've talked to that's been watching this is like, wow, these are really cool elements. You guys have a lot of testimonials from pro gamers that are enjoying it quite a bit, but I don't see a Kickstarter. I don't see a donation button or anything like that. How are you guys? How does this come to life? How is this going to happen?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right that we're not looking at crowdfunding until we feel there's a good opportunity to bring in the community. And we're definitely going to be planning some crowdsourcing options down the line, but we're currently in the process of financing the game. That's going very well. We have a lot of interested parties we're talking to. I can't say more than that, obviously.
Sure.
But the key thing is we want to present an experience that will succeed, that people can be a part of comfortably. Esports is definitely a growing market in the context of the greater industry. It's kind of a wild west. So we don't want to communicate any doubt. We don't want to communicate that that we might be mistaken as hucksters, because there's a lot of ghostware that goes around this industry. So we're focusing on integrity and clarity and just a clear way forward and a clear vision.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions coming out of the chat right now, or?
Yeah, Granas asks, what plans do you have for potential future tournaments for Vanguard? Is that going to be happening?
Yeah, we're considering, right now we're going to be entering into a prolonged period of player feedback and community feedback where we learn what we could have done better. Obviously, we have a postmortem coming up on that. But once that dust is settled, we'll be considering a way forward. There might be, for example, an open tournament for the wider community to participate in, with a sponsored prize pool and all that stuff. Long-term stuff, there should be some pretty exciting new content releases on the horizon. I'm pretty excited about that. On the Vanguard side, you can expect more work going into differentiating commanders, adding new commanders per faction, and really testing the guts of that system in more detail.
Okay, I mean, I would just piggyback off that point real quick and say, like, putting a timeline on something's obviously impossible, but if you had your dream of dreams, when and where does this game start to show up and come to fruition?
Beta starts within 3 years. That would be the ideal.
Very cool.
Yep.
Any idea about supporting mods in arcade in Immortal?
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, again, like I said, we know we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We appreciate, the decades of work that various studios have put into bringing the RTS to this point, and opening the door for us to make our contribution. We believe in paying it forward, and we believe that the more competition, that competition yields superior quality across all games within an industry. Monopolies are bad for innovation. So we will be providing the tools for the next generation of designers to take what we've learned and run with it. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I think if you guys have more questions, you should definitely check out their Twitter, which is Vanguard Games.
Yep, or Sunspear Games and Vanguard Prototype.
There you go. So I retweeted it, but there's the Twitter and then the website where you guys have. Do you guys have a forums or anything like that? Are you talking to people?
No, we're setting that. Setting that up, and we want to get a bit more of a player base before we engage in that. Yeah,
a little bit of horse and cart, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can check up their updates. I've been watching some of their artwork. You guys have been having some, what would you call it? Early art, I guess.
Yeah, it's early concept art, just outlining things for our initial builds, and we have another bout of artwork coming your way, and yeah, we're really excited to share.
Okay, very cool. So that's at sunspeargames.com, and it's like /world for your writing and stuff.
Yeah, and we also have a Facebook page that does fairly regular updates, and you can find us on Twitter as well.
Very cool. We have something else as well.
Calzar is curious about how players are going to unlock new commanders. Are they going to be available right away, or are you thinking about in-game currencies?
Currently we're exploring multiple options. We could do the Dota 2 route and focus strictly on cosmetics, or we can throttle the acquisition of new commanders through an IP system like League uses. But the key thing at the end of the day is the user experience, and that's going to be our main priority. We don't want to make any decision without a thorough set of play testing on that and experience testing. What it is for certain is we're going to have no pay-to-win elements, obviously. This is an esport. The integrity of the game and the integrity of the customer experience is paramount. And we are definitely going to have a free rotation in the event of an IP to make sure that all the main factions are playable in some capacity.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. We will be back on tomorrow at the same time. But like I said, check out that website. Check out the Twitter. These guys are mega responsive, so if you have further questions, make sure to ask them there. Or join us in the chat tomorrow. Dylan was in the chat this whole time as well, answering all kinds of questions. And we look forward to seeing you guys there. So great players, great names coming up as well. If you check out that bracket, which is just !bracket or something like that. I think Justinius did that. You can see some amazing players, including Classic and Innovation, who steamrolled today, which is amazing because Innovation literally must be working off like 3 hours of sleep, having won his GSL group in 4-0 or whatever it is. So very cool stuff. But we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks very much.